hole for Jonathan Taylor. There he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. INDY.
Eastern Conference Championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Fan Morning Show along with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen and Mark Dykton. Yes, I've returned. Jeff Rickard here, ready to go for draft week for the Indianapolis Colts. We've got a lot to talk about today. We'll have a couple of guests on to talk about what the Colts might be thinking, where they might be headed, how many picks they end up with. Do they find a way to get back into the first round? All that kind of stuff and more. We've also got the fever starting camp. The WNBA season is here. Major League Baseball everywhere. And the NBA playoffs, Kevin Bowen, have started without the Indiana Pacers. They didn't even wait. Didn't even wait for us.
Well, first, welcome back. Glad you are feeling better and you are back and hopefully rested and feeling as good as possible.
Yeah, we're going to give it a go. It was really weird. A week ago Thursday, I started feeling kind of cruddy. I was actually out for a bike ride, and I couldn't. James, you ever go on the highway and you're trying to get up to like 60 miles an hour right away to get on, right? And imagine the car just stops at like 20 miles an hour and you can't go.
That was me when I got pulled over when you and I were talking the other day, right?
I'm talking to Kevin on the phone on his way down to Indiana, and he got pulled over.
Yeah, I heard it was your fault.
Yeah, it was.
Bad influence over the phone.
Yeah. Or something else that I have no control over, right, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly. But
Okay.
It was an easy excuse. Blame the boss is what I told Officer Perry.
So anyway,
The fact that you still remember his name is hilarious.
I see him in my dreams.
Yeah. He's got the badge right there
Can't
in
take the
front,
name
right?
of any cop ever.
That you got pulled over by or anything?
No chance.
Don't you just look at the little nameplate right there?
No, I'm
No?
looking at reasons for them to leave me alone.
All right.
Hopefully.
So anyway, I spent some time in the hospital. I got out really, really tired last week. Got pneumonia, of all things, and feeling better. So we'll see how this week goes. But I appreciate you guys, as always, holding it down, and thanks for having me back. And looking forward to getting back to what we do today. So thanks for all the people that sent nice messages over the week as well, and appreciate all of you. In the meantime, yeah, it's weird not having the Pacers in the playoffs, isn't it, James? Just I know we've seen this coming, and we had the long, slow death march all year long, but it's just I had a little bit of fear of missing out when the playoffs started the other night, and there's no Indiana Pacers on.
Yeah, I would say the last couple of years, Kevin, the tradition has been sitting in the Colts media room during the draft and hoping they trade back so we can finish watching the Pacers game in the first round. So certainly not the same sort of setup this year, but depending on how the ping pong balls go next month and depending on how the health kind of goes next season, I would imagine this is just a one-off year for the Pacers.
Yeah, it was kind of an anticlimactic opening weekend, I would also say. I mean, yes, we did have an 8 over a 1. And James, I thought back to last week when we were kind of debating, those play-in games. I thought to myself, do we totally trust the Pistons? And sure enough, for game one, the Orlando Magic get it done. But outside of that, I don't think we got a lot of great late-game drama really anywhere in the opening round.
Those are some bad games.
So a little bit rough on that. And by the way, Mark, good morning. You look great.
Thank
Love
you.
that sweatshirt
Ham
on.
and Bears.
I checked the weather report, and I was like, what the hell is this? We're in the 40s and 30s this morning. I'm like, I know what shirt I'm throwing on this morning.
So, Jeff, last week, Mark was a seamstress. He fixed my shorts. The shorts, Mark, I wore them. Try to wear them literally all weekend.
Kevin presented his zipper to me, and I ripped the zipper off, and I opened a pocket for him.
Did you exchange texts with Mrs. Bowen to explain the procedure or anything like that?
I haven't had to yet. I'm expecting that at some point.
All right, I'm just curious.
When the golf outing arrives, I'm
Well,
sure
you
I'll
know,
have to text
I didn't have Jeff going there at 7:04 in the
it's
morning.
okay.
It's just there's a history there. That's all I'm saying.
But Mark, the Hammond sweatshirt looks great on you. And you know what, Mark?
Look at this.
Oh, there we go.
Look at. Was this planned, Mark Dykton?
No, was not.
Great
I was
minds.
hopeful, though.
Both of them, for those who cannot see the
Great
YouTube
minds
stream,
think alike, Mark.
both wearing their Hammond Bears sweaters today.
I love you, Kevin Bowen.
Let's go,
Man, oh
Hammond.
man, oh man. I am, by the way, got a little apparel to talk about too. The Stanley Cup playoffs have started. And the Avalanche now have a 1-game-to-none lead over the Kings in their first-round series. But it's that time of year. We've got NBA playoffs. We've got the Stanley Cup playoffs, which for those of you who don't pay a lot of attention to the regular season in hockey, welcome to the party. It's an amazing, amazing run, Stanley Cup playoffs. So you strike me as someone who's never really been into the Stanley Cup playoffs, James. You get into them at all?
Nope. Unless somebody tells me to watch the finals.
The Blackhawks, when you were a kid, the Blackhawks won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I didn't really watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, but I knew they were great.
Mark, how about you? You a Stanley Cup guy?
Yeah, but this is probably the least I've watched hockey this year, but I'm always down for the playoffs. It always is good. So
All the drama with the Sabres, right?
Oh,
yesterday?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Seemed like some great theater there in a place that not a lot of playoff hockey.
Not lately. Yeah, it's been a rough go for them. So we got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, we had IndyCar yesterday, too. And I want to take a guess at who the winner was in IndyCar yesterday, James? Might be a name you're familiar with. Alex Palou? Ring a bell?
It does. He won again. He is honestly one of the best in the world right now, clearly. And I don't know. You guys have to put it into like historic perspective, I'm sorry, for me, because I just know the guy always wins, at least since I paid attention to the sport.
I don't know that we've seen a driver, certainly in the last 10, 15 years, Kevin, who's dominating over the last year and a half, 2 years like this man is.
No, and this is one of the few places he had yet to win. So Felix Rosenquist getting on the pole looked like you could have, just a different type of winner. But sure enough, Alex Palou he just reels the fish in. It's just the slow reel in, and he's inevitable, and that's the ultimate compliment you can get. So yeah, Tiger in 2000, whatever, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, those type of tennis runs. That is what Alex Palou continues to do here in IndyCar. So now everything shifts to IMS. They'll have a week off. Open test coming up next week. Road course there the second weekend in May, and then the 110th running coming up May, whatever it is, 23rd, 24th, kind of an earlier May this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun month of May, and of course we'll have all of our things that we always have. We're going to have that daily installment starting next week. We'll have daily installments of Trackside, followed by Beyond the Bricks. That'll take place right up until race weekend, Monday through Friday. So we've got that going on. We'll have all the qualifying and all the races, and we'll be out there. I don't know, are you familiar with Carb Day, Kevin? Your favorite day of the year?
I am.
What's better, the day of your birthday or Carb Day?
Well, it probably goes Carb Day, wedding anniversary, kids' birthdays. Maddie's birthday.
So
and the anniversary of Tiger winning the Masters.
Mark and I wearing Hammond Bears sweatshirts together.
Did you say Carb Day ahead of anniversary, or that was the first thing that came to your mind?
I don't know if I said any list. I just happened to list that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that was a randomized list, not to get you in trouble. That's all.
Mark, are we best friends today?
We need to do like the prom picture where you have like your hands on my hip or vice versa. We need to do that.
James, during the break,
am I behind you or are you behind me?
Either way works for me.
But I feel like a popular prom weekend. Seemed like there were a lot of we were out at the garage Saturday night. I love the garage here, and there were a lot of promers. It looked like
feels like earlier than usual. Am I off there? I don't remember prom being in mid-April.
I'm trying to think.
Hoping to have someone talk to me at after prom, Mark. So
I swear we were mid-May, like 2 weeks before the end of the school year.
What's your favorite restaurant to go to out there? Any of them?
At the garage, yeah. I mean, a great Friday. Rosie Bone loves the fettuccine Alfredo from the Italian joint, the back left there. I've gotten to the Brazilian place a few times there. Maddie got a little sushi action, so it was packed.
Have you taken the kids bowling yet over there?
Yes, we
That's fun.
have. Yeah, it was. We actually went over there. Very crowded on Saturday night, but we did a little pinball machine action there. The Toy Story one and the Spidey one. Those were our
nice
stops at the old pinball machine. I think the pinball machine's one of the more scammier games out there.
I think the scammiest game of all time, and I saw this at a carnival, I don't know, a month ago or so, the free throw shooting game where if you inspect the basket a little more closely, there's barely enough room for the ball to get through it. James, have you ever seen these things?
I haven't paid much close attention to it, honestly, but
you know what I'm talking
I've heard
about, right?
the complaints about it.
Mark, have you done that? Have you
Are
tried
they greased rims?
I don't know if they're greased, but you can, like, literally the circumference of the basket is just big enough for a ball to get through.
The clankiest rims of all time, too, because you even touch the rim and it goes airborne like 50 feet in the air.
So during the break, James, can you get a picture of the two guys with their Hammond Bears sweaters together?
Sure.
Put that out.
Boss man, you got a phone on your camera as well, right? Or camera on your phone.
You probably got more.
Should we-
I'm
should we
thinking you have
double up?
more. You and Kevin, because of Colts coverage, have more dedicated followers, though. Trying to get this thing broadcast to as many eyeballs as
Ah.
possible. See,
I feel like you guys are like in the Step Brothers movie right now.
Somebody
exactly
said
what they
replicate
are.
that pose from the DVD cover.
I love that. You can get a little pick six action. Speaking of Colts, we do have Chris Bauer's pre-draft press conference coming up at noon today. So again, Thursday, round 1 of the NFL draft. So a couple NFL items, I guess, over the weekend there. A big trade impacting near the top of the draft. And I think we would be remiss here in the opening segment. Thoughts, prayers with Becky Kavoyan, the sons of Bob. And in this market, I think hell, outside of this market, when you just say the name Bob or you say the name Tom, everyone knows who you're talking about there. So rest in peace to an absolute legend in the radio world. Any sort of Mount Rushmore, I mean, Bob and Tom are
they're
absolutely
there.
on it. So,
Nationally, they're there.
to Chick McGee, to Christy Lee, obviously to Tom, everybody. Just some thoughts and prayers to their entire family, which extends, I think, much more than just the people on air. I think a lot of people that listen to them on an daily basis and the national syndication of it felt like they were part of their family. I can still vividly remember whether it's a Dodgers hat or a Q95 bumper sticker. Just incredible what they've done for our industry, frankly. So rest in peace to an absolute legend, Bob Kavoyan.
The length of their career, the peaks of their career, just the absolute joy that they brought so many people for so many years in this market. In the morning, that show is one of one, James. It just does not happen in this industry, and there was a reason that people tuned into them for years and years and years in the morning. And so we all send our best to
Yeah, for sure.
the Kavoyan family and friends and everybody else over there. So I'm glad you brought that up now, Kevin. All right, coming up in a moment, we'll get you caught up to date on everything else you need to know to start your day in the world of sports. It happens right here on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, if you're thinking about being in the market for a car, I've got the place for you. Out there in Avon off of Rockville Road, it's the Andy Moore Group campus. And first off, it's a one-stop shop for 4 different brands. You've got Nissan, Toyota, Volkswagen, all of that out there at the Andy Moore Group campus in Avon. And you also have the Kia brand. And one thing that Kia is offering here as we close out the month of April, you buy 3 tires, you get a 4th for just $1. And as someone that has had to spend money on tires lately, $1 is very cheap when it comes to that spending. So again, that is the Kia brand out there in Avon. Telluride, Sorrento, Sportage, good affordability. Over 70 new vehicles under $30,000, over 25 pre-owned vehicles under $15,000. Fuel-efficient hybrids to fit any budget if that's what you're looking for there. Carnival, Sorrento, and Sportage on that front. And again, you buy 3 tires, you get a 4th for $1 now through the end of April. That is Andy Moore Kia out there in Avon off of Rockville Road. Got plenty of brands out there. It's a great one-stop shop. Stop there today, Andy Moore Group campus in Avon.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, let's get started on a Monday. It's going to be a busy, busy week. The NFL draft coming your way just 3.5 days from now. The Colts currently have no first-round draft pick. They sit at number 47 overall in the second round. Probably need an edge, a linebacker, maybe even a wide receiver. Later today, James Boyd will hear from Chris Ballard. What do you expect him to say?
Not much. Usually his pre-draft press conference is pretty boring, but I guess from a news standpoint, tomorrow is the first day of OTAs, and you have to wonder if Kenny Moore II or Anthony Richardson will be there, considering that they're on the trading block right now. And then moving forward throughout the week, throughout the draft, Jeff, will those two guys get moved? Presumably, I would think, for day 3 selections, and then would that add to your 7 total picks right now?
That's interesting. Kevin, what do you think the draft value in a trade would be for a guy like Kenny Moore II?
Yeah, you're probably looking somewhere on day 3, which, we do see veterans moved in this final day, which is Saturday of the draft. One thing to note about Ballard today, it will be the first time he has spoken since that Kenny Moore II trade request became public. So, that will be different. Today's not just about draft questions. Obviously, he's going to be coy with a lot of that, but still the Colts have had, a lot of offseason news, more departures than additions. So, I think that could be an area where, he is fielding some questions today.
All right, be listening to 93.5, 107.5 The Fan on Thursday night. We'll have full-blown ESPN radio coverage of the first round of the draft, also punctuated by a lot of cut-ins and information from Matt Taylor and the Colts broadcast team throughout the next couple of days as we wind through this draft and see what the Colts try to do to make themselves a little bit better. NFL news yesterday, the Giants, of course, over the weekend traded defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals. Cincinnati, James, then signs him to a $28 million contract extension. So out goes Trey Hendrickson, in comes Dexter Lawrence. Not quite the same position, but they both put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of an all-in move by the Bengals that is very rare. They don't usually do this hardly ever, considering everything I read over the weekend. So I understand why they did it. It is a lot to give up for a player, I believe that's 29 and kind of on the older side. But I don't hate it if you have a guy like Joe Burrow and you're trying to go win one literally next year.
All right, in college basketball news, Braylon Mullins from Greenfield Central had a terrific freshman season for UConn. Helped lead them all the way to the championship game of the NCAA tournament, including that buzzer beater that knocked out Duke, averaged 12 points, 3.5 rebounds a game. He's decided that he's going to stay, Kevin, at UConn for another year. I kind of like seeing that.
Yeah, and I think this is honestly just a product of the NIL world. I think a lot of players that were thought to go in round 1 of the draft, which, it seems like maybe in the later portions was kind of where he was pegged. You'd probably oftentimes see guys go. But in the era of NIL, what's Braylon Mullins? He's probably making multiple millions of dollars to stay at UConn there. So, welcome to the NIL where, it does have some of these, middle to late first-round guys probably are going to be more inclined to come back here. And, I think some further development, whether that it be as, maybe a little bit of an assist playmaker or, getting to the line a little bit more. Maybe some of those things he can tap into in his second collegiate season.
James, who says college education can't benefit kids? Right there, huh?
To be honest, though, I would argue, Kevin, that he might be the rare kid even before NIL that might have stayed anyway, considering his development and how his dad and his family has kind of guided him. He just doesn't strike me as the kid who would chase the money. Now, the money's nice, I'm sure. But, yeah, Braylon has kind of always played the long game with his career, which is smart, I think. And, we're going to have the same conversation next year about him being a first-round pick anyway and possibly a lottery pick.
Kevin, former Purdue forward Cam Heide is going to transfer again. He left Purdue to go to Texas, played a year there. Purdue saw him in the postseason. He's leaving Texas to go to South Carolina now.
Yeah, we mentioned that last week. Cam Heide, South Carolina, Miles Colvin to Cincinnati. The only other local name I saw really of note over the weekend was Stink Robinson committing to UCLA. So, they have Xavier Booker out there, the Cathedral product, and now they have the Lawrence North product and Stink Robinson out there for Mick Cronin.
Also, you'll like this one, James. Fisher's big man, Kai McGrew. He's committed to Ball State, and new head coach Chris Kapko averaged 15.7 rebounds, a couple of assists, a steal, a block shot. That's good news for Ball State. He's a good player.
Yeah, for sure. Chirp, chirp.
He's also one of those kids that already looks like he's 23 years old. I remember watching him a couple times this year. He was a man among boys.
Yeah, I didn't have that benefit when I was in high school.
Nor did I. So good for him. Hope it goes well there. Indiana Fever have opened training camp at the WNBA. Aaliyah Boston marked the first WNBA player to sign an exceptional player on initial contract extension. She'll be making $1 million this season in 2026. She's just happy to stay put.
Yeah, I was super blessed. God is great, man. Just to be here, be with the Fever, get that extension. I'm super excited about it. The staff is super excited. I mean, Indy is just such a fun place to be. I think the basketball that we're playing here is great basketball. The people that we have here at this franchise is amazing, and I love playing with them.
And she'll get a chance to play with them starting in the preseason on Saturday, and they'll take on the New York Liberty. You'll hear all the games right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. How about this new CBA, though, for the players? James, in addition to the $1 million that she's going to make this year, Kelsey Mitchell's going to make $1.4 million. 4 other Fever making $530,000 or more, including, of course, Caitlin Clark. But good for the players, man. This CBA has dramatically increased their salary. We were just talking about Aaliyah Boston. She's going to make 10 times more by the end of this contract than she was making last year.
Yeah, and I think for Caitlin, she was going to make $85,000 this upcoming season. Now she's going to make over $500K. Yeah. And so, yeah, she's the next person on that roster in line for a max raise. She could actually try to get a max now, but if she wins MVP, she could get a Supermax contract next summer. So we'll see if Caitlin Clark can deliver on that front.
All right, NBA playoffs are underway. They started this past weekend. Yesterday, the Celtics defeated the Sixers 123-91. Jason Tatum scored 25 points, his first playoff game since tearing out Achilles tendon last year. So that's an encouraging sign for others that have had a tough Achilles injury.
Yeah, I continue to be very encouraged watching Tatum. You know, really, that was par for the course.
He looked amazing
all weekend long.
Oh, my gosh.
Just in terms of blowouts, you know, we really didn't see anything too competitive down the stretch. Shout out to the Orlando Magic. They upset the Pistons. They're in 8-1 in round 1. The Pistons were all Cade Cunningham and really nobody else, especially Jalen Duren had an incredibly quiet game 1. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the biggest news item. And then obviously we'll see the health of Lakers Rockets because some very notable names on the sideline to start that series. The Lakers got it done out west there in game 1.
One other note on that Orlando-Detroit game, and these are all game 1s of these playoff series. The Pistons have now lost 11 straight playoff games at home, Kevin.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, last year, remember, against the Knicks, they won a bunch of games in Madison Square Garden. It was a competitive series, but it was a bunch of road wins in that series there. So whether it's Tobias Harris, whether it's Jalen Duren, whether it's the Thompson brother, I mean, Kevin Huerter off the bench, somebody, some more support for Cade Cunningham.
Also, yesterday, Oklahoma City Thunder easily over the Phoenix Suns, 119-84. The defense was tremendous for the Thunder in that game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 25 points to lead the way. Victor Wembanyama, 35 points. The Spurs beat the Trailblazers by a score of 111-98. Major League Baseball, the Reds cannot be stopped, Mark Dykton. You can't stop the Reds.
Not yet, it appears.
7-4 winners over the Minnesota Twins. It took them 10 innings, but they got it done yesterday. Meanwhile, the Cubs did use extras to beat the Mets by a score of 2-1. It was the Cardinals 7, the Astros 5, and the White Sox beat the Athletics 7-4. 4 teams we tend to follow on this show all won yesterday. When's the last time that happened, Mark? I don't
Probably
remember.
been a little bit, especially for the White Sox.
Man, oh man. Oh, and the Omaha Storm Chasers beat the Indianapolis Indians in Omaha yesterday. 4-2 was the final score in that one. And at IndyCar in Long Beach, Alex Palou gets his first win at Long Beach, his 3rd win of the year. A little bit better than pole setter Felix Rosenqvist. Did you get a chance to watch any of that game?
Yeah.
Or that race, I'm sorry.
Yeah, again, it was just kind of the slow reeling of the fish in by Alex Palou there with Felix Rosenqvist. So Scott Dixon on the podium out there in Long Beach. So those 3, you know, obviously some pretty impressive days. Mark, 5 in a row for your Cubs.
Yes, sir.
Right there. Wanted to make sure we give Mark credit. Mark and I are best friends today.
Who's in first place in the National League Central?
I actually don't know. I know I know everybody's at double digits. I know even the Pirates.
The Cardinals have been playing very good baseball as well. It's a very jumbled NL Central right now.
Central is right now the Reds are on top of the Central.
Oh,
in case anybody's wondering.
Okay. Well, we'll see how long that lasts.
I just want to throw it out there. They are
every team has at least 12 wins, which is crazy.
They're 14-8 right now. The Reds are. So we'll take that and run with it. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we head to break?
I think I'm good.
Kevin, anything?
Fever preseason opener, is it Saturday, James? Is that
Saturday,
right?
yeah, Liberty.
Coming up. So I think media day on Wednesday for them as they've opened up training camp and good bill of health seems like so far. I know Caitlin Clark maybe was kind of like, can we move on from some of these health related questions?
Yeah, she got a little irritated by that, which I understand. She's been healthy for quite some time. Won MVP over at the FIBA qualifying tournament last month, so I get it. But I thought it was interesting, and we can get into it throughout the show, how they're approaching keeping her as fresh as possible for what figures to be one of the longest WNBA seasons in history, considering that they are playing 44 games again, second time they're doing that, but also the FIBA break coming up, I believe, at the end of August and mid-September. Unlike with the Olympic break last time, Caitlin didn't make that team, so she had a chance to kick her feet up. This time around, she'll be playing and probably one of the premier players on the team. So how do you keep her fresh for that and for what could be a long, long season, what they hope to be a long season?
All right, that's what's happening in the world of sports from our neck of the woods. Coming up in a moment, we'll talk more about the NFL draft, which is on the way later this week. What will the Colts do, and what will Chris Ballard be telling us later today? That's next. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark, I hear this, and then I feel like people get disappointed because they're ready for a Super Bowl show.
I know. Well, it could be ready for something else today. I hear this.
I was going to say, that's not what I think of.
What's today, Mark? Did you want to share with the class?
I think you can do the math. Look at your calendar, maybe.
It's Monday, right? That's what it is. It's Monday.
Yeah. Nothing else.
That's right.
Your normal Monday on April 20th.
All right. It's the Fan Morning Show with Kevin
Oh,
Bowen.
no. It might be a little stinky in a few places.
James Boyd, Mark Dykton. I'm Jeff Rickard, and it is draft week in the National Football League. It feels like it's a 364-day buildup to the NFL draft anymore, James, and it's just more intense once the NFL season comes to an end after the Super Bowl. People talk about who's going to move up, who's going to move down. This quarterback's great. He's not great. We have guys that obviously will find themselves in trouble that are expected to be first or second round picks, and who knows what's going to happen with them. But we just want to know, what are the Indianapolis Colts thinking for the next 2 years when they don't have a first-round draft pick to make a selection, at least at this point in time?
Well, you got some big holes to fill, I would say, when it comes to the defensive end spot and the linebacker spot. And I wonder if those are the two positions they will address first throughout the draft. I could see arguments for other positions. I know cornerback is one that I think is a need, perhaps not a day two need in my opinion, because you've already invested so much in that position. But I just feel like Kevin and Jeff, they've kind of pigeonholed themselves into having to have a great draft, because the free agency period to me was kind of underwhelming, aside from bringing back your two big stars in Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. And I say stars kind of loosely because I get it. Alec Pierce, 1,000-yard season. And then for Daniel Jones, is he a star anywhere else outside of Indianapolis? Probably not. But those are the two guys you had to bring back. But the other additions are lacking, in my opinion.
Would wideout be a position at all you'd think about in round 2 or round 3?
Yeah, I would give that more thought probably than cornerback. But even then, I'm just thinking to myself, how much help do you think you need offensively when, in my opinion, you could probably scheme up some stuff to make sure Tyler Warren gets his, or Alec Pierce gets his, or Josh Downs gets his, and so on and so forth. I think it's a little bit harder to overcome some deficiencies as far as scheme defensively if you just don't have the personnel. So you need starters. I think you probably need that too via the draft when it comes to your 7 selections. And so we'll see how it all shakes out, but that's the position I think they find themselves in.
7 selections or more by the end of the draft, Kevin?
I would assume more. Again, one of the big questions for me come Friday night is, do they trade back, and are they able to get another third rounder? We went over this a lot last week. Past Chris Ballard drafts that have not had a first-round pick, i.e. this one, they've typically had an additional second or third rounder. But as we sit here right now, they've got 2 picks in the first 111 selections. Some of the least quality of draft picks of any team here entering this week. So we know Ballard's had pretty good success, I think, certainly at times on day 2, which is round 2 and round 3. So again, how do they go about acquiring any of those additional picks there? Now, I can easily hear some people that say, hey, if you trade back from 47, you go back to 60, you're really going to allow 59 players to be drafted before you take one? Obviously that maybe loses a little bit of the high-end quality to it. But, yeah, I'm still definitely on that defensive end linebacker train, and I still think it's head-scratching. We sit here on, Monday, 420, and it's a lot of people are lighting one up today, and the Colts seem to be lighting cap space on fire with 25, 30 million in cap space. And it's like, okay, is that being used? Will it be used?
Well, you referenced this a moment ago, James, and here's my overall question, and I'll open it up to everybody. Mark, feel free to chime in. What position did the Colts get better at this offseason? I'll wait.
Yeah, I think they're, and I think I made an analogy earlier in the offseason, like depth at defensive tackle, but to use the James Boyd dating analogy with that girl that had the Tesla when he went on the date with, it's like coming home from the date being like, your roommate's like, oh, how'd the date go? And you're like, oh, she had a nice car. Well, what? Like, how was the convo? How'd she look? what was the vibe? What was the chemistry? Well, her tires were clean. Like what?
Yeah.
So again, defensive tackle depth, but I do say that in all seriousness for those that care.
And we played this game last week too, where we were like, look at the linebacker room. This might be the most nondescript linebacker crew in the entire league.
The Colts might have the deepest kicking room of anybody in the NFL.
Got that going on, and they're only going to be able to keep one of those. So one of those kickers will probably end the season kicking for somebody else.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through all the positions in my mind and not finding a lot of.
I mean, they got Daniel Jones back. He's coming off injury. They did that.
And again, I think that is, you had to bring him back, at least from their perspective. But again, they're glossing over the Achilles like it's just a hangnail. And watching Jason Tatum yesterday, I got inspired. I certainly did. I was thinking, boy, for the Daniel Jones truthers out there and probably a little bit more of the Tyrese Halliburton variety, they're excited to see him perform at that level. But that's like the best case scenario I've seen in a long time. And even then, Daniel Jones is playing a different sport and trying to push a quicker timeline. Because I want to say Jason Tatum was about 10 months, and it'll be about 9 for Daniel Jones to go from surgery to playing week 1. And, of course, to play week 1, you would have to practice and play, quote unquote, before week 1. So even a shorter timeline, it's a lot to unpack. And again, I get that is its own issue, but as far as the draft goes, yeah, I think that's why there's so much pressure on this front office to deliver, because you haven't given yourself much of an other option considering the lack of moves in free agency, and not for, as Kevin has pointed out repeatedly the last couple of weeks, not for not having cap space. You have it, it just hasn't been used.
So let me ask you this, Kevin. Is it fair? I mean, could the Colts make a case that, hey, our first-round pick is Sauce Gardner? That was our first-round pick. Is it fair to say that?
Well, sure. But, obviously that's your first-round pick next year, and the A.D. Mitchell element is at least something in terms of what departed. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll hear a lot. I'm sure the Colts will tweet out, like, whatever Sauce Gardner highlights on Thursday night. And, yeah, I mean, there is some truth to it, but it's also more than just one pick. I honestly thought back to the Sauce Gardner trade over the weekend when you saw the Bengals trade for Dexter Lawrence. And what was that? Was that 10 overall?
Yes, and it was straight up.
So 10 overall. And, it kind of reminded me, I was texting a little bit back and forth with my uncle about this. It kind of reminded me of the DeForest Buckner trade. You go back, what's that now, 6 years ago, I guess? The Buckner trade was 13 overall. And to James's point, it was straight up. 13th overall pick for DeForest Buckner. Dexter Lawrence, 10th overall pick for him. I would say the glaring difference between those two trades, and again, the context around the trade. Like when you ask about Sauce Gardner, to me, it's not just him as a corner. There is context around the trade. What's your quarterback situation? What's your head coach situation? What's your GM situation? All those factors that weigh into the magnitude of trading, in Sauce Gardner's case, multiple first-round picks. But to me, the one big difference between Dexter Lawrence going to the Bengals and DeForest Buckner coming to the Colts, who was the Colts quarterback when they made that trade?
That was Carson Wentz. Was that the Carson Wentz year? No,
That was
2020.
Jacoby Brissett turned into Phillip Rivers.
That was 2020, going into the 2020 season.
Yeah, going into the 2020 season.
Yes, okay.
Where Cincinnati has Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So that to me is kind of the glaring difference in this. And I get Burrow's had some injury history, but Burrow's also been, one play away from winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was a really interesting move by Cincinnati. They definitely seem like a team that has, to steal the phrase from Carly Ursay, Gordon, a high sense of urgency. I think their actions speak to it. They've made a lot of defensive moves in general, and that unit needed it desperately. They made a lot of moves this offseason there on that side of the ball, whereas, again, you see the Colts, and I struggle to see maybe the higher sense of urgency with outside of the building moves this offseason.
They clearly believe, and even Carly said it, they clearly believe that their team, as they get a healthy quarterback back, is the team that went 7-1. That's clearly what they believe. We're just going to rerun that. We're going to put it all back together. And the health can't be nearly as bad this year as it was last year, right? Because it seemed like everybody got hurt in the second half of the season last year. But that's what they're thinking. That's what they're telling us, isn't it?
I know. I'm not like upset with you for laying it out there, Jeff. I'm just thinking. I had like that little. Remember the show That's So Raven? They used to come on like Disney Channel or whatever, and you like stare off in the distance and you see the future, and it ain't looking too pretty. That's kind of what I just did right there. I had to take a pause and think like, all right, if I squint, can I see the vision down the line? Possibly, but boy, there's a lot of different ways this could go, and I'm not seeing a clear path to more positives than negatives just because you're banking on some stuff that requires a lot of hope, and hope isn't a plan. And that isn't necessarily my line. It's something that Chris Ballard told us at the Combine, and that seems to be a big part of their plan. And I'm not going to say you should like expect all your players to be hurt every year, but man, you're hoping for Daniel Jones to stay healthy, which he just doesn't do throughout his career. You're hoping that Travarius Ward can stay healthy after suffering 3 concussions last year. And he told us straight up, if I get another one, I'm going to be done with football. Who's to say that won't happen this upcoming season? You're banking on a rookie, Justin Wally, who had a promising camp, looked the part for sure, but has not played a single snap in the NFL. Like, I don't want to overstate what he could be because I haven't seen it on a Sunday. So that's what I mean when I feel like there's just so much that has to go right. And we know in the NFL that is usually not the case. And I wonder if, like, the possibility of things going bad, at least historically, using historical points in regard to Daniel Jones, does that outweigh what could possibly go good? Because I just don't see him playing a full season. And right now, again, I go back to how ready is Riley Leonard, because week 1 could be a real possibility, in my opinion.
Here's the other thing, if you're looking at it from the Colts' perspective. Offensively, it feels like Shane Steichen, one of the things he's comfortable about Daniel Jones is this guy gets my offense and he runs it on schedule. He just does what I ask him to do. This is the play. He makes the right reads. He delivers the ball to where it's supposed to be. He doesn't take a long time to do it. I don't know that they're expecting Daniel Jones to be like first or second team All-Pro, but Shane Steichen clearly is comfortable with the fact that he believes Daniel Jones just does what my offense needs to have done. That's kind of what it is, right?
Did I see Riley Leonard on stage, Luke Combs concert in South Bend this weekend?
That wouldn't surprise me. That man is royalty in South Bend, is he not?
Yeah, maybe a little too big of a.
Well, royalty probably a
little too big of a.
But
world.
he's well
popular.
liked.
I think
he's
the man
popular.
in Bloomington going number 1 overall is probably royalty, but yes, popular is
Fair
probably
enough.
a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Did you see he also mentioned that he got paid more with the Irish than he does with the Colts?
And this gets back to the Braylon Mullins
Right.
thing. I mean, again, in all seriousness, I think you're going to see more players that, whether it's the NBA, right now, a good college quarterback's making what, $3 or $4 million? How much is Riley Leonard making? Is he making $1 million a year?
Probably not as a. Well, no, he's probably making $1 million as a 6th-round pick. But let me check.
I don't know. Those 6-round contracts aren't.
Sounds like maybe 700,000, something like that.
I mean, even if he's making $1 million,
We'll see.
I'd venture.
Yeah, he's making $1 million.
Is
It's
he?
$1 million.
Okay.
I mean, again, if you're a good college quarterback right now, you're making multiple millions of dollars. So, yeah, that was what, 2 years ago in NIL, and inflation in NIL years go up very, very quickly.
So
I feel
Max
like
Bowen has a chance to change the family legacy.
Unless long snappers start making good money, I don't see that happen.
Hey, shout out to Luke Rhodes, man. Luke Rhodes has made good money in his career. One of the best at his position.
Is he the longest tenured Colt, Luke Rhodes?
I think he might actually be, because isn't he like a 2017 guy? So
Mo Alley Cox clip him or no? Has Luke Rhodes been here longer than Mo Alley Cox?
I think he has. Boy, the debates we have on this show just
the thing,
riveting.
though, the thing's great about you want to talk about career longevity. You may not make the most money, but if you're a really good long snapper, those guys tend to stay with their teams because they're dependable for a long time, and they tend not to get completely beat up. You don't have to stay fast. You just got to be able to do your job and continue to do it well.
I worry about his back. I mean, isn't that a lot of what, downward dog movement? Mark, you're more the
Is that any different than a catcher's knees?
Mark's more the yogite. How do you describe someone that does yoga?
I don't know. Downward dog? You think of me?
Yeah.
You do a lot of yoga?
I mean, I've tried it. I haven't done it recently. I don't
I've
know
done hot yoga
why Kevin
once.
associates me with that.
Yeah, I did hot yoga
In his
once.
Hammond
a lot.
Bear sweatshirt, he gets down there in the poses.
You know it.
Now that you guys are best friends, do I see like the hot steamed yogurt or yoga coming up for you guys?
We can do some hot yoga, sure.
There you
Whoa.
go.
Tell you where Jeff's mind is this morning.
I know.
Well, I'm not the one that brought up.
We can really
Best
spice it up
friends
and add
and
a third,
downward
Jeff,
dog.
if you want to join in.
I didn't bring up downward dog when they were looking at each other longingly.
Jeff
there.
said he'll be there to watch it unfold.
No.
Mark, where are we on the old Hammond front here?
No clue. Last I heard at the
Draft
owners'
party at
meetings
Lost
was
Marsh Golf Course.
last I heard it was the owners' meetings that they were saying that Roger Goodell was saying they got to make a decision soon. So we shall see. I believe the Illinois legislature has another session soon. But I'm like,
Haven't they had 148 of those?
I am so sick of hearing about it. I'm like, just make a decision.
Mark has never paid more attention to politics.
So honestly,
Build it before I die. How about that?
I know you guys are wearing the sweaters because it's awesome. But honestly, as lifelong Chicago residents, you two, James and Mark, will it bother you if they're in Hammond, Indiana?
No,
Does it seem weird that
I'm
they're not Soldier Field?
I'm so indifferent about it because I'm kind of in the Mark camp. Just build it before I die. Make a decision. I don't care. And honestly, even talking to my own family, Jeff, about this, and my uncle, who's a diehard Bears fan and truly lives and dies with every play. Like every week when they win, we're going to the Super Bowl. Every week when they lose, fire everybody. Like he would be the worst GM ever. He would probably be a little bit like the late Bob Irsay, who notoriously used to fire people then hire them back. But all that to say, he complains about it, but he tells me, yeah, I'm not going to any games anyway. So I'll be right here watching the game. I'm like, well, then why does it matter to you? It's not that big of a deal to me. You'll complain, like, you know what it is? We'll complain about it, and Bears fans will complain about it, but they will complain as they go to the game because that's what they do. One of the most loyal fan bases in the league, despite being, up until recently, one of the worst teams in the league.
They got their man, though, Caleb Williams. They're good to go.
The Iceman, who is not really the Iceman. Shout out to George Gervin. I know my history.
All right. Just don't get sued by anybody. It seems to be a problem these days. Kevin, one more quick thing before we head to break, too. Have you noticed that the Live Tour is starting to implode a little bit? Have you guys talked about that last week at all?
He noticed it.
I don't think he's been able to sit down. He had to call a doctor because after 4 hours, he was still excited.
Yeah.
We're still supposed to have the Live tournament here in Indianapolis later this summer.
Yeah, and I think Kevin said he's going to go point and laugh.
Wow.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, so I feel for all the Live Golf fans out there. In all seriousness, I don't think it's time for anybody to be dancing on anyone's grave here. So, thoughts and prayers.
As you put your tap dance shoes on.
With
as
the Live Golf Tour.
Pinocchio's nose grows longer.
Seemed like a great event in Mexico. Bryson DeChambeau seemed to really enjoy all the luscious grass and everything down there. Mark,
that was hilarious, by the way.
He didn't have any issues, right, with the turf down there, did he not?
That like after we got off the show on Friday, that was one of the first things I saw on social media, and I just thought of you immediately because Bryson, fresh off playing Augusta, is staring at just the patchiest grass you've ever seen in your life. He's like, is this what we're playing with right now? It was hilarious.
Last time I saw a Live golfer in action, Sergio Garcia was snapping his driver into at the Masters.
I believe one Dr. Seuss said at some point, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'll choose to think about the Live Golf Tour.
Thoughts and prayers, Kevin. Thoughts and prayers.
He's so full of it.
I hope they find great staying power and continue to thrive.
And for those wondering what we're talking about, the Live Golf
More
Tour.
people watching Ren and Stimpy than they are watching the Live Golf.
Reports over the last week or so that the Saudis are going to pull all their funding.
Shout out to Matt Fitzpatrick. That was a hell of a shot in the 18th hole yesterday to win Harbortown over Scotty Scheffler there in Hilton Head.
I played that course.
Really?
Cool. Yeah.
Very jealous of that.
It was fun. Had a good time. Which reminds me, we got the Fan Invitational Golf Tournament coming up just 2 Thursdays from now. You ready to go?
Let's go. Week from Thursday.
You ready to
right?
go? Yep. I'll give you more details on that a little bit later on in the show. We get a lot of people coming. Give a more complete list as we've been putting that together over the last several weeks, and might have a foursome or 2 left. I'll have to double check because I haven't talked to our good friend Amanda, who's been putting the whole thing together upstairs. But check it out, 1075thefan.com. There's a big go-to front on the page there, so you can click on that and find out more information. But that's coming up on the 28th of April right here. Coming up next, we'll talk NFL draft with a man from The Athletic. Covers the draft. That's what he does. We'll get some info next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This isn't draft-related music, is it, Mark?
Could be. Could be dialing some drafts up today.
Might explain a couple of NFL analysts and their predictions for the NFL draft coming up, right?
Sure.
Not our next guest, though.
Not at
He's got
all.
it on lockdown, as a matter of fact. We enjoy talking to him. Nick Baumgartner writes for The Athletic, and he covers the NFL and the draft, which comes your way 3.5 days from now. You'll hear it right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Good morning, Nick, and welcome to us on the Payless Liquors hotline. This has got to be like the whole week is Christmas for you, isn't it?
No, yeah, like the whole month, really, of April. I mean, it's like this is the month where everybody finally says, "Okay, we'll pay attention to what you've been paying attention to for the whole year."
I was
So,
just
like, I feel like we're all on board now, so we're ready to go.
I know, but you realize that Monday afternoon there will be national publications that will start giving you a primer, the way too early primer for next year's NFL draft, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah, we've already started that on the back channels here, so yeah, we're already on to the next one in some ways, but we do have to finish this one first.
So, Nick, thanks for joining the show, brother. I appreciate it. I know it's early,
Yes, sir.
at least a little earlier where you are. But in regard to the Colts' needs, I would say their biggest needs coming up in the draft certainly are defensive end and linebacker. So, from those two positions, without the Colts having a first-round selection, which one do you think is perhaps the deeper position to acquire some talent? Is it defensive end or is it linebacker if they have to wait till day 2?
Yeah, it's probably linebacker, and quite honestly, this is a good year.
Oh, we lost Nick.
Dang, he was going to
Mark, have to go get him back, too. We'll get him back in a second. He was just starting to roll.
I know.
You teed him up. He was on a roll. He was ready to go.
I know. That's all right. But nevertheless, I actually am interested in that answer because I wonder if that would change how the Colts view what they need to draft. Or would that change what you kind of laid out, Kevin, of, all right, well, if we can't necessarily get the defensive end we want, do we trade back and try to recoup more darts at the board to give ourselves more of a chance to find an impact player in year one? Because, again, I still think you have to plug and play whichever player you take on day 2 and perhaps day 3 of this draft.
It does seem like, and we'll see what Nick says, like the middle of round 2 has several different linebackers, kind of right in that 47 range.
Yeah.
So we'll obviously see how that impacts the Colts.
All right, Nick joins us again as we got that straightened out here on the Payless
Yes,
Liquors
sir.
hotline. You had a great answer coming up. You had asked him what, James?
Yeah, I'd asked him which position group is deeper, whether it's defensive end or linebacker, and then Nick didn't tell me that he didn't pay his phone
Yeah.
bill. So I
No,
hope
I
you got that
can hear you
corrected.
guys. I can hear you guys. I don't know if you got me now. We're good.
No, I got you, man. I'm just
Okay, good.
joking.
Yeah, no. I think this is actually a good year to need what they need. So this worked out. I think they made some good moves this season, to add value and then not really sacrifice a ton because linebacker is maybe the deepest position in the draft, right up there with safety and maybe tight end, and then edge is also pretty strong too. So every time I've gone through this for the Colts, I've ended up getting them pretty much what they want or need in the second round. And you look at it and you're like, okay, they got Sauce last year for that first. I think they didn't. That was a nice move. I mean, they still have things that they have to get done here in this draft, but I don't think that they're in super big danger of missing out on anything this draft.
Nick, thanks for the time on this Monday morning.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated. Obviously, news of the weekend would be that Dexter Lawrence trade to the Bengals for the 10th overall pick. I want to say in your last mock draft, I think you had Jeremiah Love going 5th to the Giants.
Yeah.
How would such a trade impact anything, if at all, for you in regards to Love and the Giants?
Not, the funny thing is that I don't think it affects anything there. I think in a way it's like the hard thing for me throughout this whole process for the Giants was like, do I want to give him Jeremiah Love or Caleb Downs? And now I give him both. And it's like, so you traded Dexter Lawrence, you get the 10th pick. For me, I still think that Love and the Giants is a really good fit. I'm not, I don't know if they'll do that based on, it's a running back, obviously. So that can be tricky and all those things. The Saquon history there too. I don't know if that plays a role. It probably shouldn't. But I think Jeremiah Love with the John Harbaugh, with the way they play football there, or the way they have forever in his system and everything, I think it's perfect. And I think if they have the ability then to go back at 10 and get somebody else, be it on defense or whatever they want to do, I think that they're in a really good situation here. I thought that was an overpay by Cincinnati to a degree. I understand why they did it, but I think the Giants are really in a good position here now to pretty much get 2 X factors if they want to, or they could go, and get like a safe pick and a Jeremiah Love or something like that if they wanted to do that. But with their roster right now, I think they're in good shape.
Nick Baumgartner with us here from The Athletic. Great draft coverage. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Continuing a little bit kind of locally, we'll go down to Bloomington. Omar Cooper Jr., you had him paired up with Fernando Mendoza with the Raiders there early in round 2. I want to say it was pick 36. I've seen some mock drafts that have Cooper into round 1. What made you, I guess, have him slide a little bit? Although slide, I don't know. I feel like a couple months ago, a lot of people would have had him in 2.
Yeah, I think the only reason I had him down there was all the receivers slid the last time I did it. And I think that that's possible. I think that obviously guys like Cooper, Denzel Boston, Concepcion, those guys can all go in the first round. It wouldn't surprise me. But I could also see, a possibility where some of those guys tumble a little bit based on needs and based on other things in the first round. A lot of it will depend on how much, individual teams like him. But Cooper, that to me is about the lowest he's going to go, into the mid-30s right there. I think he's probably somewhere into the late 20s. Maybe he slips out of the first, but somewhere in the late bottom of the first round. I just think when you put on the tape there, you see one of the more quarterback-friendly, one of the more consistent receivers. He was, on a team with some great receivers. I thought he was the one that stood out the most day in and day out there at Indiana, and was kind of a huge part of the reason why they were able to play so fast and kind of shred people. So I love him.
When you take a look at all of these players and you look at their film and you see them all performing, you get to see a lot of teams as well. When you go back and look at not just all the players at Indiana, but just the team in and of itself, did you ever find yourself going, that's why they were 16-0? I see it now.
Yes. There's 1,000 reasons, right? That's like funny when you look back and you think about it. Like when I was going over Mendoza stuff the other day for something, and it hit me again where it was like, it's not just, that he was very accurate and, that his feet were really good. He got better at that. It was like you could tell that his preparation was so good that it allowed them to play so fast. Like he was getting from 1 to 2 to 3 faster than any college quarterback in the country. Those receivers were on time every time. You got guys like Riley Nowakowski, who is one of my sleepers in this draft. I think he's going to go higher than people probably give him credit for, the tight end / fullback / big slot. I mean, they had guys that did their job so well. Pat Coogan and the offensive line were great. I just thought it was one of those teams that was like perfectly soldered together and, very rare. I hope Indiana fans understand, very rare. Even though Kirk Cignetti is going to have good teams there and a lot of talent, it's going to be hard to reproduce that again.
One more from me, Nick. When you look at the other quarterbacks in this class, I mean, obviously we knew that Fernando Mendoza was going to be the number one pick for quite some time, but I don't know if that was the case coming into the 2025 season. So how did you see him improve throughout his final college campaign and sort of raise his stock to the point where he is that no-brainer pick?
Right. I definitely think that it's, people don't quite understand. I think he was not looked at as like the number one pick, coming into the season. But I will say most scouts that you talk to in the summer would say this kid's going to be a first-round pick because he's going to work with Cignetti and he's going to clean up some of the stuff that he needs to clean up, and that's exactly what happened. Like his footwork got so much better from the last year that he was at Cal to this year. His confidence in the pocket, his willingness to work over the middle consistently. The Cal didn't do as much with him as Indiana did. Indiana allowed him to work in a true sort of pro-style passing system, and I just thought you could see it reminded me a lot of Cam Ward, honestly, from last year. If you watched Cam Ward's career, every year that kid played, he got better at a bunch of stuff every year. Fernando did the same thing. He got better every year, including when it got harder to get better, where it was like, hey, he's a pretty good quarterback at Cal. He's still got to get better, though, and he did. He answered a lot of questions, and I thought that was one of the things that you looked at. At the end of the year, he was playing his best football. He got better every week in his last season in college. There's no reason to believe that won't continue for him in the NFL.
Nick, last thing for me, and it really doesn't have anything to do with us and the Colts, but I've just been fascinated, and I'm fascinated. There's always one player that the national media focuses on, sliding, rising, whatever. Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama, is that guy this year. Who is he?
Yeah, he's an interesting guy because he's very unique. He waited at Alabama for like 4 years, did not start, sat behind Bryce Young, sat behind Jalen Milroe, and he was a 5-star quarterback, didn't transfer, just hung in there, waited his turn, and then played 1 year. And then I'm going pro. And it's just, it doesn't happen. Like a similar instance would be a Garrett Nussmeier did something similarly, waited, and then played 2 years, and now he's going pro, right? And he's going to go in the second round, whatever. But like Simpson has first round ability. That's the difference. He has first round arm talent. He has first round athleticism. He's really quick in the pocket. If you watch just the Wisconsin game, you would think this is the second or third pick in the draft. Like he was that good. But then you watch the last quarter of the season and you see a completely different player. So there's just not enough data. And I think that that's the struggle part for a lot of teams is it's a gamble if you're going to take him in the first round, and it's pretty impossible to say it's not because you just don't know what you don't know. And that's the hard part with him right now.
Well, it's good to talk to you, Nick. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you down the road, and have fun on Thursday when all that preparation turns into reality.
Yes, sir, fellas. Anytime.
There you go. Nick Baumgartner, great guest right there from The Athletic.
Yeah, great dude. And yeah, he lives and breathes the NFL draft. And so him and Dane Brugler are just wired differently. Those guys don't see the sun for about 360 days out of the year. They emerge for like the combine and pro days and the 3 draft days, and that's about it.
Yeah, we get to see him at the combine just for proof of life, right?
There you go.
That's how that goes. Kevin, you're most fascinated when it comes to the Colts in the draft this Thursday by what?
Well, I mean, nothing is frankly too sexy, to be totally honest with you. But, again, how do they go about getting another day 2 pick? James, you and I did that trade value chart, not to get too nerdy, but we did it last Friday. And, the Colts could move back from, I think if the math works, like 47 to 61 maybe is where the Rams are.
Can you explain a little bit more for the listeners, like what the trade chart is?
Yeah. So basically every pick, all 240-some picks, have a numerical value associated with it. The first pick is worth 1,500 points. The 100th pick is worth, and I'm just throwing out numbers here, the 100th pick is worth 100 points. So basically you have to match, math equation, think about it. If it's going to be a win-win for these two teams, you need to, 2 picks add up to the 1 pick if you're trading up in a draft, for example. So basically, like, if the Colts wanted to get to the end of round 1, I think the trade value chart would say they could give up their 47th pick and their 78th pick. They could give up round 2 and round 3 right now, give up both of them, and then get to like number 30 if they wanted to. Now, again, that's very anti-Chris Ballard. I think they'd be more inclined to try and trade back. So, again, if you look at the trade value chart, you would take that 47th pick they have right now, go back to, again, I think the Rams have 61 and 93. So you would take 47, move back to 61, have that pick, have your own pick in round 3, which is 78, and then get that another pick from the Rams at 93. And there you have 3 picks on day 2. Knowing how Ballard operates, I think that would be kind of an ideal situation for him. But, again, when you say that out loud, how many drafts have the Colts ever had in the history of their franchise where they haven't made a pick until 60? I'd be hard-pressed to find many, if any. So that would probably be some of the pushback that you do receive. And this gets back to the whole debate of the draft. The LA Rams would say, dump button them picks, right?
Yeah.
Are the Colts in that boat? Should the Colts trade their pick for a veteran?
That's also a possibility. I know that was really a hot topic about, was it Jonathan Grenard?
Right.
From the Vikings, their defensive end.
Which Adam Schefter had some reports today of Jonathan Grenard still being a trade candidate, and he mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles with a second-round pick.
They never not mentioned with somebody as well. Boy,
right.
They make a lot of moves.
The other thing he mentioned this morning was the New England Patriots getting A.J. Brown here. It sounds like several weeks down the road at the start of June, so I think there's some contractual implications on that. So, again, that would be the question. Obviously, we've seen A.J. Brown traded on draft night prior, but yeah, for me with the Colts, it's how do they go about getting another day 2 pick, because I assume that's what Ballard wants to do.
Jimmy Johnson came up with that chart, didn't he? The numerical value chart?
Yeah, I believe that's kind of the main one. I know nowadays in the analytics world, there are probably a lot of them. But yeah, typically I think the one that most teams use around the league is that Jimmy Johnson trade value chart.
All right, well, the draft coming up in just 3.5 days. And again, Matt Taylor, Casey Vallier, Charles Arbuckle, Rick Venturi, all going to be a part of that. We will have it anchored essentially by ESPN Radio's draft coverage, especially that first night. But listen throughout the night because those guys will be updating you frequently, a couple of times an hour, as to what the Colts are thinking, how picks impact them, all those kinds of things. And, of course, I guess it's the worst-kept secret of all time that Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number 1 overall pick, the quarterback from Indiana, going to go to the Las Vegas Raiders, James. Can you imagine any scenario where that does not happen?
Nah, the question now, Jeff, is he going to start week 1? Him or Kirk Cousins? And it sounds like the Raiders are at least open to sitting him to start his career, which I don't mind. I get it, Kevin. We both, I think, kind of talk ourselves in and out of it. But considering how poorly things have gone with the Raiders throughout the years, if they want to take a beat and say, hey, maybe the things we've done in the past aren't necessarily what we want to do in the future, I don't blame them for it. And it does seem like Kirk Cousins is very self-aware in the sense of, like, I know this isn't my franchise, and I should be a good teammate and be a good mentor while also helping us to win some games and helping Fernando build some good habits.
I think I could be a good teammate making the amount of money Kirk Cousins is making.
I told you, he's the first ballot Hall of Famer at the bank.
His
Matt
agent,
Flynn.
his agent, him and Scott Boras should be on the Mount Rushmore of all agents out there. I do think for Thursday night, honestly, in our market, the big storyline is, again, Omar Cooper Jr. and Dylan Thieneman. I know I've brought this up a lot here over the last few months, but when is the last time Indianapolis, include the donut counties, have had 2 players drafted in round 1? That was one of the few times Greg Rakestraw was met with a pause, I think, when I brought that up to him a few weeks back. We've had, obviously, Indianapolis players and Donut County players go in round 1, but have 2. And, some of these mock drafts have got 2 of them going in the top 20, 25. I mean, you just heard Nick Baumgartner there mention Omar Cooper at 36, but he also prefaced by saying, I had the wideout sliding, and this is about the lowest I could see him, et cetera, et cetera. So, locally, that's probably the story with the Colts not having a pick until the middle of round 2 and the foregone conclusion that Mendoza is going number 1. Where does the Lawrence North product in Cooper go, and where does the Westfield product go in Thieneman?
All right, we'll find out more about that and talk about it over the next couple of days. The draft coming your way Thursday night. You'll hear it right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Mark, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
As we've been talking about, the Colts have no first-round pick coming up on Thursday night. Their first one as we speak, number 47 overall in round 2. The needs edge, linebacker, maybe wide receiver, James Boyd?
Yeah, maybe. I think that's a position that we haven't talked about a whole lot here on the radio show, but certainly something that shouldn't get overlooked with the loss of Michael Pittman Jr. being traded to the Steelers.
All right, the big news in the NFL over the weekend, the New York Giants have traded defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati immediately signs him after he passed his physical to a $28 million extension. So from their defensive line, they've added a couple of pieces. Even though they lost Trey Hendrickson, they're not giving up. They want to reload and try to do something, right? They're trying.
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily blame them for it, so we'll see how it shakes out.
All right, meanwhile, in college basketball, lots of news locally. Braylon Mullins from Greenfield Central. He averaged 12 points, 3.5 rebounds a game for UConn in his freshman season. Kevin, he's decided to remain at UConn for his sophomore year. Maybe this is one of the upsides of NIL in this day and age, is kids might make more money staying in college than they might make in the NBA right now.
Certainly, yeah, and I think it makes total sense. If I could stay in college and try to grow my game and continue to make a couple $1 million, whatever he's making there for UConn, that I think makes a lot of sense. And, by all accounts, it's a loaded draft this year. Maybe next year's draft doesn't have the same high-end quality depth there throughout the lottery. So if all of a sudden he improves his draft stock while making that type of money, I think that's a win-win situation for Braylon Mullins. All
right. Also in college basketball news, Fisher's big man Kai McGrew, James, has decided to commit to Ball State. And new head coach Chris Kapko, he averaged 15.7 rebounds, a couple of assists, a steal, a block, did it all for Fishers over the last couple of years. But he's going to stay in state and go up to Ball State. See what happens there for a year or two, right?
Chirp, chirp. Excited for him.
Go on that right there. Also, Cam Heide, the former Purdue player who left Purdue to go to Texas, played Purdue in the NCAA tournament this past year, has decided to transfer again, Kevin. He's going to South Carolina now.
Yeah, I know we mentioned that last week. Yeah, him and Miles Colvin kind of, I guess, putting the bow ties in their collegiate career. I assume. I guess nowadays I should never assume that people are done.
Do you think that the credits transfer, or are they getting multiple degrees? How does this work? I'm always curious, like, do you carry the one and all that when it comes to the classroom?
Don't think the academic records are maybe the first thing discussed in some of these transfers here.
Fair enough.
I would say that
I wouldn't be
universally,
talking about it either.
not for the Miles Colvin, Cam Heide specific academic records. We'll see. Portal closes on Tuesday. Or I guess that's tomorrow. Is there anything left for Purdue? Indiana, I think, still just needs a couple bodies. And if I believe when I say the portal closes, it just means you have to enter by tomorrow. You don't have to make your decision by tomorrow.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that for everybody out there, because Indiana still needs to field like a full roster, a full 13, whereas Purdue, I think there's some talk.
I'm glad you clarified that, because for a second
there any
I was
big
like,
guy?
boy, they got to get a lot of things done between today and
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I mean, I want to say Indiana's got 6 guys they've gotten, plus the 3 freshmen, Trent Sisley coming back, so that math is 10, and nowadays some people are saying, hey, if I got a 13, person roster, which I think the roster can be bigger than that, you might as well only just pay like 10 or 11 significant money, not ruffle any feathers at the back end of the roster guys. A little bit more of a, hey, let's go quality versus quantity.
I'll tell you, you're getting paid now. WNBA players, the Indiana Fever have opened training camp, and Aaliyah Boston is the first WNBA player to sign an exceptional player on initial contract extension. She's now going to make $1 million in 2026. Kelsey Mitchell just signed her brand new deal a week or two ago, $1.4 million she'll be making this year. Everybody's getting paid. Caitlin Clark, though, she's back, and she's just happy she's healthy starting camp.
I feel great. Super excited to be back here, and I think I have a great perspective on, camp and not taking anything for granted. Obviously, at this time last year was kind of going through some things, so more than anything, just really excited. I feel really healthy and feel like I put myself in a position to be as healthy as I can be to start the season, and kind of just staying on top of that and having a lot of fun. I think I have, like I said, great perspective on everything, and excited with all the people that we brought in. It should be a really fun camp.
That's Caitlin Clark. Last year at this time, she was dealing with a quad strain. Later on, she had a right groin issue that then became a left groin issue that then ultimately she had to miss some time and the rest of the season with an ankle issue. So hopefully she'll stay healthy all year this year.
Yeah, knock on wood. That was a weird year for her, because prior to that injury-plagued season, she had played in every single game from her freshman year at Iowa through her rookie season with the Fever, 181 straight games. And then you have a game with just 13 appearances, or a season, I'm sorry, with just 13 appearances. So excited for Caitlin, and high expectations for that group after getting to the doorstep of the WNBA Finals without her last year.
And, Kevin, last time we saw Caitlin Clark, she was in that FIBA World Cup qualifying tournament. She was outstanding, was the tournament MVP. So she picked up right where she left off in terms of her talent and ability and everything else when she was healthy. That was good to
she
see.
looked great. I think she'd be the first to tell you the competition was the competition. But still, the fact that she was out there and playing as well as she was great to see. So, James, I assume starting lineup-wise, are there any big questions here? I mean, on paper, it's Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hall, Aaliyah Boston, and then Mo Billings to round out?
I would say Mo. Yeah, she's probably there.
Kind of like Sophie
4.
Cunningham, Aisha Hines-Allen, and Raven Johnson, kind of the first few off the bench.
Yep, that's how I think it would shake out. And we'll see, again, how this team sort of meshes throughout a very brief training camp and then getting into the regular season.
Our first preseason game comes Saturday against the New York Liberty. You'll hear it at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. The NBA playoffs are underway. Game 1's yesterday. Celtics beat the Philadelphia 76ers 123-91. Jaylen Brown led the Celtics with 26 points, but Jason Tatum, first playoff game since injuring his Achilles last year in the playoffs, 25 points, 11 rebounds, but he just looked good.
Yeah, he continues to look great, and honestly more from, I would say, kind of like an explosive nature, the ability to drive and finish at the rim, things like that. So, yeah, hey, is that good news for Tyrese Halliburton? You got to feel pretty confident, I think, watching that unfold. Same doctor about a month earlier for Tatum than Halliburton. So, continue to be good signs on that front. And probably is Boston the favorite out of the East right now?
I would think so, yeah. I would. Also yesterday, Orlando Magic beat Detroit 112-101. Yes, Cade Cunningham had 39 points, but that was it for Detroit. And, Kevin, they've lost 11 straight home playoff games.
That's insane. Say that again.
11 straight home playoff games.
Gosh, that's really hard to do.
People are going to stop coming after a while.
But I kind of hate the Pistons, so that makes me happy.
I don't think there are a lot of people who love the Pistons around this area, to be honest with you. Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending champions, beat the Phoenix Suns 119-84. San Antonio got 35 from Victor Wembanyama. They beat the Portland Trailblazers 111-98. 3 games tonight. Denver with a 1-0 lead hosts Minnesota. Cleveland with a 1-0 lead hosting Toronto. And the Knicks leading 1-0 over Atlanta play at 8 p.m. tonight. So you've got that going on. Major League Baseball, the Cubs 1-10 yesterday, 2-1 yesterday. They've got a 5-game winning streak going, Mark, a 3-game sweep. That's a sweep, my man. 3 games right there.
Take that, New York Mets.
All right.
Stick it.
They are still trailed the Cincinnati Reds in the Central, though. The Reds beat the Twins by a score of 7-4, also in 10 innings that they had to come from behind to just tie it up in the 9th. Cardinals beat the Astros 7-5. The White Sox over the A's by a score of 7-4. IndyCar yesterday. How about Long Beach now on the Palmares, so to speak, of Alex Palou? One of the races he had not won yet. That's gone. So he gets a win over Felix Rosenqvist in the field.
Yeah, his greatness continues. Yeah, like you said, Jeff, one of the very few places he has yet to win at. And, of course, he made sure to cross that off the list yesterday. Caught Rosenqvist there late and was able to do Alex Palou type thing. So his dominance now continuing, and all eyes shift to IMS. Open test on the Oval, which is very important for the Indy 500 coming up next week. Thought I saw a report over the weekend that Catherine Legge could be car 33 here with AJ Foyt Racing as we try to get 33 confirmed names. It doesn't look like we're going to get any sort of bumping for the 500, but just waiting on kind of some finalities with that. But I saw some reporting over the weekend that indicated Catherine Legge could be back in the 500 in car number 33.
All right, anything else you guys want to throw in before we head to break?
Chris Bauer today at noon, pre-draft press conference, and then the Colts will start their offseason program tomorrow. So, again, voluntary portion of the offseason, but the Colts, Shane Steichen and company, will get things kicked off tomorrow. All
right, this check down has been brought to you by Bet365. With Bet365 early payout, you win even if they lose. Get paid out instantly when your team goes up big, even if they blow the lead later. Bet365, winning is everything. And, of course, you must be 21 or over. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-WITH-IT. More in a moment on the upcoming NFL draft. And what are the Pacers thinking as they watch all these NBA playoffs? It comes your way next to 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The gold standard for hair restoration, it's We Grow Hair Indy. Northwest side, that would be the Pyramids. Building number 2 up there online, wegrowhairindy.com. Good place to start. I think you'll see before and after pictures and videos that they offer. And again, they are the best in the business. I definitely had some questions walking in there. One of the questions I had was, okay, what would the recovery process look like? I was a little unsure of that, wasn't maybe thrilled about the prospect of that, but honestly, wasn't too bad at all. I had the procedure done on a Friday, was back at work on a Monday, actually took a vacation with some buddies that next weekend. So again, those were some of the questions I had, and those are some of the answers I got from We Grow Hair Indy. Free evaluation, private evaluation, virtual evaluation, all of that awaits at We Grow Hair Indy. So contact them today. Get answers to the questions and curiosity that you have. The best in the business, the gold standard for hair restoration, We Grow Hair Indy.
Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. It a go bun. Give me the music, make me jump and
It a go done. You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark, is it safe to say you're on fire today?
Thank you. Along with some other things probably in central Indiana.
April the 20th, for those wondering this morning.
Listen, everybody got done with tax season last week. Time to spark one up and relax this week.
Are we going to get a special appearance by Baha Men later on today?
Who let the dogs out?
No, maybe who's the other one I'm thinking of?
Afro Man?
Afro Man. Thank you. That's who I was thinking about. Yes. We're going to see him later on today?
Maybe. We'll see.
Thank you very much for
I
clarifying
take
that for me.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. In the meantime, boy, we spend a lot of time these days talking about draft, whether it's the NBA draft and the Pacers and where they might draft, or the Colts and whether or not they're going to move back and get more picks or find a way to get into the first round. It's about draft these days, Kevin Bowen. That's where we're at. A year ago this time, we were in the midst of an epic playoff run by the Pacers, who took it all the way to the brink before the untimely injury to Tyrese Halliburton. And now we just talk about the draft. That's where we're at.
Yeah, total 180, certainly from an NBA standpoint, where we're at. It's funny, I was thinking back to, I think Friday, this news item also occurred in the NFL, was you guys see Will Anderson Jr., the Texans edge rusher, signed that mega deal.
Max Bowen, we're putting that hand in the dirt as soon as you get home today.
I wish he had some genes.
Is he have your size? Is he going to be as big as you are?
Wish he had some genes to carry out that mission there. But it was kind of a reminder to me of, understandably, we got so lost in the own Colts draft situation in 2023. That was the year the Colts took Anthony Richardson 4th overall.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans took C.J. Stroud at 2, and then they traded back up to 3. I can remember being in the media room and James for a split second thinking, oh my gosh, is this a quarterback needy team coming up to
before the
3?
Houston part had come out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was Arizona that had 3.
Yeah.
And Arizona had, of course, Kyler Murray, so you knew they weren't going to be a quarterback team. So when all of a sudden, it pops up like trade, you're thinking to yourself, oh my, is this a team that's coming up to take Anthony Richardson ahead of the Colts? And therefore, who the hell knows what would have happened there. The Will Levis thing, I don't think would have been the 4th overall pick, but what an unbelievable move by Houston. And like that is just, I think it's a franchise that obviously they settled on CJ Stroud with number 2 overall, but also just to have the wherewithal of like, okay, next year's draft doesn't look like a great defensive end draft. We are going to put a ton of eggs in the middle of, in that basket, if you will, with a new head coach, believe a new GM, and we're going to really swing for the fences there. And they traded a future first. And, when you look at the pass rushers in that next draft, that's the Latu draft. So right now, I don't think you see a lot of double-digit sack guys with so far. Again, it's early. And Will Anderson Jr., of course, has been just an absolute flat-out stud for them. So what a move by the Texans. Just having the guts to do it, the scouting to do it, thinking outside of the box. I don't think too many franchises would have done that, and they didn't sit on, anything in terms of resting after that CJ Stroud pick. And boy, are they reaping the benefits of one of the best pass rushers in the entire league.
And the Colts continue to just bank on development, I guess. You brought up Latu. They're hoping that he develops even further than he did. And he didn't have a terrible season last year, James. You can't say he had a bad season last year. I don't know that it was outstanding, but it was an okay season.
Yeah, I would say it was good. But for the purposes of this team, he has to be great. And especially so this upcoming season, considering that you don't really have, at least right now, that other guy to take attention away from you. You're going to get all the double teams. You're going to get all the attention. And if, I haven't even factored this in, but if DeForest Buckner isn't the DeForest Buckner we've seen in years past, where he's been their most dominant defensive lineman, and I get he's coming off neck surgery, if he isn't that player anymore, again, where does that attention slide to? You. And you've got to deliver. So, again, I don't feel very optimistic about the Colts pass rush. And I feel like they're asking a lot of not only Latu, which is fine. He's a first-round pick. You should ask a lot of him. But the others on the roster right now, we went down to Phoenix to talk to Chris Ballard. Part of the conversation at the time was, oh, yeah, Jalen Tuimoloau is going to be a dude for us. He's going to be somebody we rely on. And in my mind, I'm like, well, he couldn't see the field last year at all. And, again, he could still be a good player. He was a second-round pick for a reason. I thought he had an outstanding college career, at least to finish it. But, again, to go from a guy who was often a healthy scratch to suddenly a starting caliber player or someone you rely on to play big snaps for you seems like a massive jump that is more optimistic than realistic.
It seems like so much of the plan for the Colts this year, we've talked about it forever and ever and ever, but we'll talk about it again since the draft is coming up, is either guys getting and staying healthy or taking one more step forward. That seems to be the whole plan right now in the offseason, Kevin.
Yeah, I'd say it's a lot of internal growth, whether it's Tuimoloau, as James mentioned, whether it's Jalen Travis at right tackle. I guess wideout, maybe it's a little bit more in numbers. To go back to wideout for just a second, I know we discussed in the opening hour of the show. To me, I feel better about Shane Steichen manufacturing the loss of Michael Pittman Jr. than I do the pass rush being manufactured. Like, if you're going to throw out that term, we're going to scheme it up. We're going to manufacture something together. To me, I'd sleep better at night manufacturing a passing game scheme with Tyler Warren and Josh Downs and Alec Pierce and Shane Steichen, obviously Daniel Jones, versus what they're attempting to do along the defensive line right now. And defensive tackle is that one position. By all accounts, this Dexter Lawrence trade that occurred over the weekend, part of that was because it's not a great defensive tackle draft. But, that's a position that, Mark Dykton dreams of Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles every night. Chris Ballard is dreaming of defensive tackles. Like, that is what he is thinking about 24/7, 365. And, I don't know. It just seems like we've had this kind of like, okay, where's DeForest Buckner at? Where's he at? Coming off the neck surgery. Where's he at? They have paid a lot of attention to defensive tackle, frankly, here this offseason, more in the depth. But is that like a sneaky position they could draft here coming up on day 2? On paper, I don't know if you're in a position to do something like that. But again, with Ballard, he loves himself some defensive tackles.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll take a look at the NBA playoffs. And
Is that too harsh, Mark?
Is it too harsh?
I don't want him to get an Achilles tear.
Wow.
I would like to just see the you-know-what knocked out of him every single week, but he still gets back up. But he's regretting every decision he's made in his life.
Thank you for clarifying.
By the way, the Steelers still won't get an answer on what his future is before the draft, according to multiple reports.
I did see that, Mark.
Right on the Aaron Rodgers bucket list right there. Not going to know until after the draft. So a big mystery, of course.
Was he not going to announce it in Pittsburgh? That'd be very fitting if he just stepped up to the podium.
No, probably he wants to play it
McAfee could
out.
introduce him.
Then he'll get hurt feelings if they draft the quarterback. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
That's their fault for even being in the position where they have to wait on Aaron Rodgers.
Also, I saw listener Jimmy mention, Mark, that if we do the Step Brothers pick with our Hammond Bears sweatshirts on today, that you should be in the back.
Okay, that's fine. I'm on the front of the Wheaties box. I'll be in the back of the other picture.
I was going to say, we might need this on a Wheaties box.
So
This is a classic.
I'll be taking it from behind is what you're saying?
I didn't say that. You did.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're aligned here on what exactly this picture is going to look like.
I don't even have it. I think we should go to a break. I don't know how to respond to that. I don't want to go to an HR meeting this week.
Kevin, I think you should throw out the break.
I'm speechless.
Let's go. You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Looking outside on this April 20th, Mark, it is a gorgeous day shaping up. It was a little chilly this morning, but I saw, Kevin, did I see the rest of the week? We're going to be in the 70s?
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Maybe spring has finally truly arrived.
Today's the outlier, it seems like.
Say it again, Mark.
I said today's the outlier.
Yeah, it feels like with that rain on Saturday, and obviously it was a bit chilly, even though the sun did show its face a little bit yesterday. Very windy, but yeah, we get through today. Great rest of the week, which is great for spring sports because I know that's always a big deal in trying to fit everything in from a high school season standpoint. It's probably one of the more popular outdoor seasons of the entire year. So hopefully that continues to cooperate throughout the month of May and would be good for cars on track over there at 16th and Georgetown as that starts to ramp up here.
Also, spring means NBA and NHL playoffs. The NBA continues tonight here on The Fan. You'll hear the Knicks hosting the Hawks beginning at 7:30 right here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. But take a look at the East, James. Obviously, the Celtics, to me, seem to be the favorite now that they appear to be fully healthy. Knicks are still the Knicks. Cleveland played a good first game against Toronto, so who knows what happens there. And then also Orlando all of a sudden playing like everybody thought they were going to play at the beginning of the year, and out of nowhere, they just thumped the Hornets in the play-in game the other night and won their first game easily in Detroit. When you look at the Pacers kind of sitting this one out, obviously, what's the hierarchy that you see in the Eastern Conference right now?
Boston and then everybody else for sure, but probably Boston at the top spot. Probably the Knicks in that second spot. I don't know if I trust Cleveland just yet. I do think the addition of James Harden over Darius Garland is a good one, but I'd probably go Knicks, Cavs, and then the rest of the field. I know the number one seed in the East this year is Detroit, but they haven't proven themselves in the playoffs quite yet, and that's why I can't roll with them. And I think that when you get to the playoffs, you really start to see how good your good players are. And so I don't doubt Cade Cunningham at all. I think that he is arguably a top 10 player in the NBA, but you need your co-star, Jalen Duren, to show up, and he was a no-show yesterday for sure. And I'm not saying he won't have a bounce back or have a good playoff performance later on in this series, but when you look at the Pacers, when they're fully healthy, at least in my mind, I never doubted if Pascal Siakam was going to show up. Never really doubted if Tyrese would show up, especially after the run he went on. He was kind of one of the weird outliers where he could have a really bad game and then make a great shot at the end, and it's all is forgiven. I don't know if I can say the same thing for other teams and their stars.
When you look at the Eastern Conference, Kevin, and obviously we're sitting this one out, I talked about that. You kind of agree with the assessment that James had, that it's the Celtics, maybe the Knicks, and kind of everybody else at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Detroit right now, I don't know how anyone could have confidence in them, even come out of the top half.
Can't win a home game.
Cleveland, I think, would be the team you'd probably point to with that. Obviously, Cleveland at least has been there and done it a little bit, not a lot, but, Donovan Mitchell, certainly I think can put a team on his back and get them a series or two win. But yeah, I mean, right now, if you're going to bet on anybody, I think it'd be certainly the bottom of that Eastern bracket, which would be where Boston is as the 2 and New York there is as the 3. So, it'd be funny if we said at the start of the year, who do you think has maybe the more talented roster, Orlando or Detroit? You probably would have said Orlando, with Paulo Banchero, with Franz Wagner, with, the addition of Desmond Bain and Jalen Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr. and a shout out to Pacers legend Goga Bitadze. So, yeah, I mean, that roster, again, is more talented. Now, I'm not saying that always equates to winning the best of a 7 series, but boy, right now, Cade Cunningham's got to be looking around being like, hello, come on, guys. Need a little bit more. Jalen Duren would probably be the one I put most in that category after game 1.
The crazy part is I watched a little bit of Oklahoma City and Phoenix yesterday, and man, James, Oklahoma City's defense is what stuck out to me. And I know they're playing Phoenix, who is not the greatest team in the world, but they had trouble just getting into the paint in that game yesterday. They couldn't do it. And when they did, they were rejected half the time.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised how that one went at all, honestly.
It was the defense that surprised me, though.
They're that good, man. They are that good. I did find it interesting. Jalen Williams from OKC said this maybe about a week ago, and he talked about how the urge to go back to back is fueled by knowing it's just an individual season, meaning last year could have gone 10 different ways. And he talked about how, like, if you simulate the season, if you go back, there's probably some scenarios where the Pacers win it, or they feel like they should have won it. Or Denver, who I believe had OKC down in their series maybe twice, feels like they should have won that series. And he talked about how you all kind of have like that sense of urgency to know, man, we may not get this opportunity again. And that kind of really resonated, I think, perhaps with me being someone who covers the Pacers, because that is the reality that you're facing. Not saying you can't get back there, but that is something Pascal's talked about in the past often, about how you can't necessarily think just because you made it to the finals last year, you get everybody healthy going into next season, you'll be right back there again. That's just not how it works. And so that's an interesting way to look at it, especially for the team that won it. You know, I guess he's trying to distance himself from those feelings to go out and win another one.
How about Luke Kennard on Saturday night?
Oh, he was brilliant. And again, you talk about players stepping up. LeBron, no Luka, no Austin Reeves, their two leading scorers, and his dude showed up. You look at Detroit, Cade Cunningham showed up. Where's my other all-star? Nowhere to be found.
And, you know, I'm always a big believer, like usually, James, in playoff series, the home team is more inclined to have one of those surprise nights.
Yeah.
You know, whereas with Detroit, obviously they were home in game one, and they didn't get that at all, you know, whereas with the Lakers they were. So, again, key injuries, you know, whether it's Luka's situation, whether it's Durant's situation, Reeves, you know, Joel Embiid. I'm sure I'm missing a couple others, but, you know, those will obviously have some big impacts on where we're at from a series standpoint.
All right, coming up in a moment, Nathan Brown covers the Colts for the Indy Star. Chris Ballard going to be speaking to the media later on today. What does Nathan want to hear from Chris Ballard today, or expect to hear from Chris Ballard today? We'll find out next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
My first concert, the Steve Miller Band.
Well, look at that.
At the old McNichols Arena in Denver, Colorado. How about that?
Rocky Mountain High wasn't the only thing going on at Jeff Rickards one night that night.
I might have been a little young for that right there.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do remember being introduced to the concept that night because there was certainly things happening all around me.
The skunk get in here? What's that smell?
Mark, you look great in the photo we just took out.
Oh, did you guys take a photo during
out
the
in
break?
the lobby?
There we go.
I'm about to tweet that out.
Future wedding photog, James Boyd. Great work, James. Good knee bend. Look like you know, sorority squat.
Yeah, I told you my hack. Whenever I need a photo when I'm on the road, I find a woman between the ages of 20 and 30 and hand her my phone.
Yeah.
If I hand it to a dude, my head's going to be cut off. My feet are going to be cut off. It's going to be blurry. She's going to get all the angles.
Yeah. Maddie Bowen is a great stereotype of a good photo taker.
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And, and that demographic you laid out, I think, fits that. Sorry if that offends anyone out there.
You know who's always in focus, though? Our next guest, Nathan Brown,
look at
joins
that.
us on the Payless
Look at that.
hotline right
How about
now.
that bar on a Monday at 9 o'clock?
You are on it, Nathan Brown. Thanks for being here this morning. This is a big week for you, too, isn't it? Man.
It is a big week. First time going through the ringer that is the NFL draft. I've been through 5 or 6 Indy 500s, but never an NFL draft. So excited to get into whatever this week has in store for the Colts.
Nathan, honestly, it's just hours of us making jokes the entire time and then getting suddenly quiet when we have to work. The room is pretty loud, and then as soon as that pick is in, we're all just hacking away at the keyboard. So it'll be an interesting experience for you and a good one. At least we all, I think, like each other in that room. But as far as the Colts purposes go, one question I threw at my buddy over at The Athletic, Nick Bumgarner, from earlier is, we know the Colts need a linebacker and a defensive end. I have to ask you, okay, with number 47 pick, which way would you lean position-wise?
I think it depends a little bit on who's available. But I mean, I've been wrestling with this question. I wrote a piece last week that dove into it. I tend to think edge rusher only because I think if the right people are there, I think the right pick at that spot, at that position, can be more impactful on your defense than the linebackers that will be available there. As you mentioned, no doubt that they need one at both spots. You could probably even argue that they need 2 starting linebackers given where their group is at the moment. But I just, as long as someone that they feel can be a day one starter is available for them there at 47 or even potentially later, if they feel like there are enough options available that they would be willing to trade down and gain some draft capital in the process. I feel like that's the way that I would go, but not necessarily certain that that is the way that Chris Ballard and the Colts will, for certain.
And that's the voice of Nathan Brown from the Indianapolis Star. Does a great job on the Colts beat alongside Joel A. Erickson. Okay, Nathan, hear me out on this. I hope it's not too confusing. Let's say we're chatting Sunday at noon. Draft is complete. Rank the likelihood of these 3 individuals on the Colts roster Sunday at noon. Anthony Richardson Sr., Kenny Moore II, or a new Indiana University football player?
Ooh, most likely to be on the roster. I would say...
And if you could rank them 1 to 3, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I'll take Anthony Richardson, I think, is most likely to be on the Colts roster. We know that he's been available for some time now. And I don't know. I don't have the sense, and this isn't based off of a ton, but I don't know that I have a sense that there's a whole lot of major demand for him. And so I don't know that that's a guy that has to get traded right now. I'd say an IU player. I'll take number 2 and Kenny Moore number 3. He's certainly between the 2 guys on the trade block is the most valuable. And I would say that there's a decent likelihood that he is no longer a Colt in a couple days.
When you look at the overall, like on Monday, when we're talking about what the Colts did over the weekend, what's the most likely overall scenario that you see happening?
I mean, rephrase that a little bit.
So when you look at all 3 days of the draft for the Colts, how have they framed it? Did they pick up more picks? Did they trade back? Did they go after defense first? Like when there's a characteristic, when you summarize the Colts draft on Monday, what do you think you'll be saying?
I think, I mean, they need to go after high impact rookie defensive talent, whatever it takes to get that. I don't know that they have the assets to trade up. If there was, say, someone that they really, really liked that they expected to be taken in the first round, but maybe fell, still was available at 35 or something like that. I don't know that they have what that takes. And I could certainly see them trading back to get another pick or two in that third or fourth round, but they just need guys. They need depth on both, or probably on the offensive line. I feel like that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but I mean, they maybe need another guy to throw into the safety mix. They could potentially use another quarterback. Certainly they need a couple linebackers and a defensive end. That is just the place where they have not, for whatever reason, this offseason, gotten the type of guys in free agency that you would have hoped would have plugged some holes or brought some starter level competition to the roster, and that's what they need. So I certainly, for the Colts' sake, hope that that's what we're talking about. If they don't acquire that, then I think it's a very different conversation.
So Nathan, from my understanding, later today, Joel, your beat partner, will not be an actual partner today. He's not going to be there.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to send him a message, let him know he's slacking off. I don't know what's happened. I appreciate your arrival, but, you let me know if he's, lost some juice since you arrived, okay?
No, he's with family today, taking some very deserved time off, and so I'll be there writing everything Chris Ballard when we get a chance to talk to him at noon.
The old, family excuse. But no, I love Joel. But I will say this, on a more serious note, in regards to Chris Ballard, one of the questions I do have for him is, do you expect Anthony or Kenny to be here tomorrow when voluntary OTAs begin? Now, again, it's voluntary. They don't have to be here, but how do you see this kind of playing out? Like, do you think there's more likelihood they're both are still on the team or none are on the team come 2026?
I mean, the Anthony thing just kind of feels like it is met, these sides have met the end of their road. It would just be really hard to imagine, knowing especially how positive the Colts have viewed what Riley Leonard did in some short spurts, not only on the field and in game situations, but just in practice, in the meeting rooms. I really feel like they believe in what he can do as a number two, and I just don't know. I mean, you've got to be able to get something for Anthony Richardson on the trade market. I don't know what value he truly brings you as a number three quarterback on this roster, because I do think that they see more of a future, and certainly in terms of 2027 in Riley than Anthony. So if something were to happen and they would need to look to another quarterback, I just think that they would want to look toward Riley as a long-term solution. So I feel like, Anthony's time in Indianapolis has probably met its end. The Kenny Moore question is one I think we went into this offseason more so just wondering, not necessarily because of how crowded the room was. I mean, although you could argue that secondary is the place on the Colts roster where they are the strongest at the moment. I think we just wondered, from a salary standpoint, if they were trying to clear cap space to go make a big move, which we know that they were unsuccessful with Trey Hendrickson just at the opening of free agency, or if there was someone else that could slide into his spot. And I know many of us believe that Justin Wally is that type of guy. I don't know that it necessarily feels like there's any sort of acrimony between Kenny and the Colts. Maybe it just kind of feels like the Colts feel as if they have someone that can slide into that spot. Maybe Kenny wants to go somewhere that has a little bit more certainty to be competitive and maybe fit a little bit better in the defensive scheme compared to defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. So we'll see what that goes. I don't know that that's a definite separation, but when you hear that teams are talking about searching for a trade mutually, that normally I don't feel like it's very often that sides come back from that.
That's fair.
Again, Nathan Brown with us here from the Indianapolis Star. Nathan, am I allowed to ask you an Indy 500 question? I have a feeling during the month of May you'll be over at 16th and Georgetown, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it looks like we are slowly going to get to 33 cars, and feel free to fill us in if you have any details on that. But I'll ask it more from how much do you think the bump day storyline matters? Like, as, I don't know, I'd say maybe a little bit more than like a novice IndyCar fan. I really enjoy that storyline, and I get there are some financial repercussions that can be decimating might be too big of a word, but you can probably speak to it better, but can really hurt teams, obviously, if they're not in the race. How big of a storyline do you think that is? Do you think we should try and get to a point where we're having a bump day annually, or do you think that's just not feasible?
There just doesn't feel. I think I've maybe only had one, maybe two 500s that I covered that there wasn't a bump day, and I don't think there's ever been more than 35, and we maybe only hit 35 one time. But just the juice and the energy that is around that facility when there's something on the line. Not that the Indy 500 pole doesn't mean something, but I mean this race typically turns into a 150 or so lap fuel save race for the most part, certainly through the first half of the race. And so in that sense, being on pole doesn't make much of a competitive difference compared to just starting second or third, because those guys are typically given the lead away or trading with teammates if they're up around there, just to be able to save fuel to get them closer to the end. So having that juice of who is who's not going to make the race, what team or what couple teams or what engine manufacturer has been struggling during practice week and now has something on the line of not coming here as competitive as you might have hoped. That just always feels like the number one storyline, I think, in practice and certainly in Fast Friday and through qualifying weekend. And when you don't have that, it just feels like it lacks a little bit of competitive juice, energy, tension, what have you. And so that will definitely be missed this year. That's certainly, I know that that's something that the folks at Penske Entertainment would love to have. Every single year is a little bit different on why it's not there, whether it be from an engine standpoint or teams or drivers or drivers that have all the makings, whether it be sponsorship or a car or crews put together. But it just doesn't feel like this is the year for that, unfortunately, and we'll await that 33rd team and car and driver combination, I would imagine, coming here shortly.
Nathan Brown, Indy Star, covers the Colts and a longtime reporter for IndyCar. I'm just curious, one more IndyCar question from me. We saw Alex Palou win again yesterday, and when we think IndyCar legends, obviously we think about AJ Foyt. We think about multiple-time winners at the 500, and obviously all the Andrettis and things like that. But what is Alex Palou on his way to doing in IndyCar? Like, what is happening right now? The guy seems to win, if not every week, every other week.
It's really incredible. I was watching a replay of the broadcast late last night and heard them mention that was his 22nd win. And it's not inconceivable that he next year, I don't think he's going to get there this year, but it's not inconceivable to think that next year he could have 30 wins. And that, to me, has typically been that mark where you really start to think of the top echelon of drivers, not only from a skill level standpoint, but longevity standpoint, because it's not easy to get to that 30-win mark. Joseph Newgarden, I think, has only just gotten there. He's maybe at 31 or 32. And the idea that Alex Palou could be there in his 8th IndyCar season and still, you would say, certainly be in his prime. I mean, he starts to string more of these 4 or 5-win seasons together. He's going to be hunting down AJ Foyt's all-time win record at 67 really quickly. And then at that point, it just becomes, how long can he stay in this sport? How long does he want to keep doing this? There's no sign of either of those two things waning at the moment, and he's not even 30 years old. Just incredibly impressive what the number 10 crew at Chip Ganassi Racing continue to do. We've, I think, thought for a couple of years now there's no way that he can continue to keep this up, and yet they do. And he's now kind of somewhat quietly got 3 wins in the first 5 races of the year. And it is, again, starting to feel like, despite a really solid start to the year by Kyle Kirkwood and Andretti Global, I think only 17 points back through 5 races, it's just starting to feel like a season where something's going to have to go wrong for Alex Palou to not win yet another championship.
Thanks very much, Nathan. We appreciate it. I know that the guys can't wait to see you in a few hours out at the Colts press conference with Chris Ballard. So try to stay tough until then, okay? All right, buddy. Have a good one.
Good, thanks.
Kevin, this is a perfect one for you, and thanks to Nathan Brown on the Payless Liquors hotline there. Part of the point of that question, I wanted to bring up A.J. Foyt. We think about the hot streak that Palou is on, and we saw, as he mentioned, Joseph Newgarden has been terrific, and we saw Scott Dixon being successful over a long period of time. 67 wins, though, for A.J. Foyt. I think we forget that the farther and farther we get away from it. But different time, different era, I get it, but still, 67 IndyCar wins is insane.
Quite a number, to say the least. The thing that really impressed me about Alex Palou, if you're going to make a Mount Rushmore, maybe add a name or two to that list in IndyCar, Scott Dixon would be on that list. Scott Dixon is a teammate of Alex Palou. So you're talking about one of the greatest drivers in the history of IndyCar who theoretically has the same data, right, that his teammate would have. And not that Dixon is having, a bad year or bad years, but yet he's unable to, sniff just the historic nature to what Palou is doing. That to me is something that really stands out, of this, not like Palou is whatever, with a bunch of chumps out there. I mean, Scott Dixon is thought of as one of the greats. So, the win out there in Long Beach yesterday from Mr. Palou, and now really the attention will pick up next week. That open test, that 2-day open test, that's a big deal for the IndyCar drivers in terms of the Indy 500, and hopefully we get more weather like what's coming the rest of the week.
So I know that in the NFL we have OTAs and then training camps, and leading up to the beginning of the season, WNBA is in the middle of their training camp right now. Everybody has training camps. Are you in any kind of training camp for first pop of the top on Carb Day? Or is that just an ongoing
Hall of Famers need training in that regard?
That's true.
Well,
that's true.
James, thank you. I don't know if you've ever said anything nicer to me, so I appreciate that. Well, I don't know. My training in the past week, Mark has unzipped my shorts, and then he just took a picture with 2 hands on me. So I feel like Mark and I have great chemistry. If pit crews and their drivers could have the chemistry Mark and I have executed in the last handful of days, they might be drinking milk come that final Sunday.
I was going to say, we all be Alex Palou.
Right?
Mark?
No, I agree. I think we've got very good teamwork going, and I think, every other IndyCar team should be lucky to have this kind of teamwork.
Are you pleased with how our stepbrothers photo turned out? By happenstance, I walked in today and saw Mark Dykton wearing his Hammond Bears sweatshirt, and unbeknownst to him, unbeknownst to me, both of us on the same wavelength. That is what I laid out last night to rock today. So Mark and I, like 2 friends at school back in the day, will you tell your mom to tell your mom that I'm going to wear this tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, this is completely, natural.
How about that?
Didn't plan it at all.
So we took a very nice stepbrothers picture. James Boyd, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Artistic creativity and helping us. We did have to clarify, Mark, initially you only had 1 hand on me. I was hoping for both.
Well, and then both hands were on you because we wanted to make sure we got the photo right. I even took the glasses off, so I was like, oh, boy. Don't usually do that in the morning. I can't see diddly without them, so, yeah.
I don't know if anybody can see that photo that I'm
you would have to
holding
get
up
a lot
right
closer
now.
to the camera.
I don't know if that's going to work, but
I'll be taking it from behind is what you're saying?
You did.
Yeah, Mark from behind. Yeah.
You know that line's going to live to haunt
Mark
you forever,
was behind
right?
me. I was in front of him taking it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, James took the photo, just to clarify. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Clarify everything.
I just want to point out I had nothing to do with any of this.
You conveniently disappeared.
No, we're not letting
that.
Jeff off the hook
I
here.
had nothing to do with
The first person to ask
any
for a
of
photo of this was literally the man in between me and Kevin.
No, they brought it up that they wanted to do the Step Brothers photo, and I said, yeah, you guys should go get that.
And he already made it his wallpaper on his phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I've replaced my boys with that.
They've had their time. It's ours now.
Literally, they have had their time. I look at that photo, I think that Jeff's kids are 6 and 7. Aren't they like close to getting jobs?
you'll find this, Kevin, as your kids get older. Even when they're teenagers, you will still a lot of times see them as 6 and 7.
Man, is that a thing?
Or maybe that's just wishful think. I don't know. They're great
I
kids.
gotta ask my parents. They didn't love me enough.
They're great
I never
kids,
hear
man.
this stuff. They're like, we're glad you're old because you're out of our house and you
I'm
pay your own
lucky.
bills.
I have great kids. I'm good. I'm lucky. Most of the time.
Shout out to the Boyds.
Most of the
did a better job.
All right, Mark. Enough of this nonsense. Let's check it down with some real news.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Not fake news, Mark. Real news. We don't do fake news on this show. NFL Draft 3.5 days away. The Colts currently have no first-round pick because last year they traded this year's first-round pick and next year's first-round pick for Sauce Gardner, Kevin Bowen. Then he ended up getting hurt for most of the time that he was here.
Yeah, so we'll see. You know, they don't pick till 47 right now. You know, as we've talked about a lot, that's pretty late for a Chris Ballard draft. So can they acquire another pick on day 2? I think knowing Ballard, that is something he would like to do. So we'll see how all of it plays out. Reminder, round 1 is Thursday, round 2 and 3 Friday, rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday, and the NFL draft taking place in Pittsburgh this year.
I wonder, but no news yet on Aaron Rodgers and whether he's going to come back and be the quarterback for the Steelers, right, James?
No news quite yet, but again, this is the Steelers' fault. If they feel like they're being held hostage, well, you allowed them to do it. You handed him the bondages and said, okay, take your time. So whether he comes back or not, I think the Steelers are going to be what they always are, mediocre, possibly make the playoffs, and then lose the first game like they always do.
All right, some college basketball news to tell you about. Former Mr. Indiana, Mr. Basketball in Indiana, Braylon Mullins from Greenfield Central. He played at UConn as a freshman this past year, averaged 12 points, 3.5 rebounds, and had that epic we'll never see the end of it shot against Duke to win it and advance his team to the Final Four. And so he's decided to stay for his sophomore season. And, James, that's just as much as anything NIL money coming into play, isn't it?
Yeah, he's probably getting paid a lot there in stores, but also comes from a family that seems to be very good about allowing him to develop and enjoy his college experience. I know even in high school, he could have gone the prep route probably toward his junior year, decided to stay, play with the kids he grew up with, and still made it to that level. So nothing throughout his journey would suggest that he needs to rush it, and the money will be there whether it's in college or the NBA.
All right, Indiana Fever have opened their training camp in the WNBA. Leah Boston is the first WNBA player to sign an exceptional player on initial contract. They call it Epic Extension. $1 million she'll be making in 2026. That adds to Kelsey Mitchell's $1.4 million of salary this year, and 4 other Fever players making $530,000 or more, Kevin. So good to see the WNBA players starting to get their recognition after, like Caitlin Clark this year is going to make $530,000 plus. She made a little over $84,000 last year.
So, James, will Caitlin Clark just sign the same exact extension next year? Is that the thought with?
Yeah, that is the thought. She could technically sign the extension right now and get a max deal, but also
2 years?
The Fever don't have enough money to do that, quite frankly, at the moment. But yeah, it's because if you make a WNBA, an all WNBA team within your rookie contract, she made her first year, you're eligible automatically for that deal. But you can only get the raise when you get to your 4th year of the deal. So technically she could sign right now, but it makes no sense because she can't get the raise until next year anyway. And if she wins MVP, you can not only get the max, but you can get the super max. So she could become the highest paid player in the W.
And now that you start having these salary cap issues and stuff, right now, the Fever, obviously, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, how long could they keep those 3 together, James?
Yeah, in theory, you could have 3 max players even next year and for years to come, but that is a question they have to kind of ask themselves, Jeff, because if Kelsey Mitchell was 25, I'd feel differently, but she's not. She's going to be, I want to say 31 come November, which is not like old, but she doesn't really fit the same sort of timeline as Aaliyah and Caitlin, who are, I think, 23 and 24, 24 and 25. So how do we evaluate them moving forward? We'll see, but it puts a lot of pressure, I think, on this season to go out there and win a championship, quite frankly.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Oh, certainly. I mean, all three players are deserving of the money they've gotten and will get. So excited for the future of the Fever.
NBA playoffs resume later on tonight. Last night, the Celtics over the Sixers 123 to 91. And I guess the most encouraging thing from our perspective is that Jason Tatum, just a year after tearing his Achilles, scored 25 points, 11 rebounds. But he just looked terrific, James. Like he looked like he's supposed to play, like he never had the injury.
Yeah, it was remarkable watching him yesterday. Boy, the explosiveness is what I was kind of waiting on, and it looks like he's got that back. So they're a scary team, and we'll certainly have something to say about who's the last team standing come June.
Orlando beat Detroit yesterday, 112 to 101. These are all first games in these playoff series. Pistons have now lost, Kevin, 11 straight home playoff games. That's a span of like over 4 seasons.
Yeah, we did a little exercise last week about like stats that will never be duplicated, kind of those untouchable stats. Boy, that's one that it's probably not on the peak of the mountain, but that's really hard to do.
Not the one you want.
Again, couldn't happen to a better franchise, if I must say.
Oklahoma City Thunder looked like the defending NBA champions. They opened their playoff run with a 119-84 win over the Phoenix Suns in a game, James. You hear this the cliche all the time. It was 119-84 game, not as close as the score might indicate. I mean, they were dominant in that basketball game.
Yeah, just a buzzsaw, and not surprising considering that they're the reigning champs and were, I want to say, the number 1 seed overall in the NBA.
San Antonio got a nice night from Victor Wembanyama, 35 points in a playoff game for him as they beat Portland 111-98. Later on tonight, 3 games. Cleveland hosts Toronto, Denver hosts Minnesota, and you'll hear the Knicks and Atlanta Hawks beating at 7:30 right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Cavs, Nuggets, and Knicks all lead their series 1 game to none. The Stanley Cup playoffs started this past weekend. Did you check out any of those, Mark? Are you a hockey guy at this point at all?
I am somewhat, but I did not see much of the games. I was we were out doing stuff this weekend, so
I did watch.
Plus,
one.
WrestleMania was on, so I was a bit tied up.
I was just going to ask you about that in our remaining moments a little bit later on. So hold that one because I'm going to have you give us a complete rundown in a few minutes. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else you guys want to throw in from the week other than IndyCar? Alex Palou wins in Long Beach for the first time.
Yeah. Again, Chris Bauer today at noon. Are we airing that on these airwaves or no?
That's my understanding, according to what Eddie told us. Yeah,
noon. A few minutes of it. Yeah.
So Will Haskett filling in for Jake as Jake is red-eyed at back, I should say, from Long Beach. So, again, Chris Bauer's pre-draft press conference coming up at noon today, and then the Colts back in the building in earnest coming up tomorrow, the start of an 8-week offseason program. Just a reminder about that. It is voluntary, although attendance is usually extremely high. In the first couple of weeks, primarily strength and conditioning. So we won't get to like 7-on-7 stuff until about, early to mid-May. And the 11-on-11 period, the OTAs, you hear that acronym a lot. That does not occur. I want to say their first one's like May 26th, something around there. So still a little bit of time before, I guess, Riley Leonard is slinging it with the starting offense. And we'll see if Kenny Moore II and or Anthony Richardson Sr. decide to show up tomorrow.
And some news coming across the wire that the 49ers and 11-time Pro Bowler left tackle Trent Williams agreeing on a 2-year, $50 million extension with $37 million guaranteed. He is 37 years old, so he's getting up there, but they are paying him handily.
We have seen, though, offensive tackles play into their late 30s. We've seen that before.
He's about to be in his 40s. He's gaining steam
I don't
there.
know who's seen many like him, though. That is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I loved how his agency just announced the deal and the details of the deal. All agencies should do that. Boy,
look what we did.
The insiders would be so mad about that, but I thought that was great, honestly. I'm like, it saves me from sending a bunch of text messages.
I have some questions about this press conference for you guys in a moment. We'll do that as we continue next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark, is this where I say let it breathe?
Sure. You can. Exhale if you need to.
That one's not even subtle.
No, not at all.
It's April 20th, for those of you wondering out there. Another gorgeous day. Looks like spring has finally sprung here, Kevin Bowen. Looking like highs in the 70s for the rest of the week. I can dig that. Everything's green all of a sudden again now. The skies are blue.
Don't get Kevin started on his lawn care. We discussed this last week.
Yeah, is your lawn care better? Could you be the greenskeeper for a live golf tournament is my question.
Well, looking like the one in Mexico, perhaps. But yeah, my lawn care needs We Grow Hair Indy.
Just like that, huh?
You got to call Jeff's guy. Who's your guy, Jeff?
Al.
Shout out Al.
I need Al.
Al's the man.
Send him down to South Broad Ripple. Come on, Al.
Al's got it going on. I have any problems, I just call Al. He takes care of it. Boom. Next thing you know, lush green.
I applied some of the weed fertilizer. Speaking of 420, the weed and feed. We'll see. I had to kind of scuff up some of the soil there. I was chatting with Eddie Garrison about it. Him and I were discussing it. Went with a little sprinkler action. Yeah, I did it right before the rain we got. I mean, God, how ugly was Saturday, by the way? Ugh.
Man, I was a week too late. I had to kill a bunch of dandelion.
I feel like that's always like God trolling us, because how do we get to the weekend and it looks like
perfect
this?
weeks, and then you get that.
I know.
So yeah, today a little chilly, albeit kind of deceiving with how it looks outside right now. But yeah, rest of the week looks awesome.
All right. Mark, anything we should take care of right now in terms of business?
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan, here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good!
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
All right, it is time to give you the good, the bad, the ugly here in the world of sports. Kevin Bowen, we will start with you. What do you got this week?
You start with the good GOAT?
Good GOAT, yeah.
Well, I thought kind of a weak sports weekend, so I went off the grid a little. I think it's awesome that we have the Children's Museum here in Indianapolis.
That is a GOAT.
I think it is incredible. I think the outdoor experience at the Children's Museum is more than worth the price of admission for an adult. I would say that.
Yeah.
I know that probably sounds bad of me to say, but yeah, I mentioned, kind of Saturday, rainy day, and Max Bone and I just palled around in there. A little dinosaur action, a little playscape action. We had a great time. And yeah, I just think that it's wild when you go in there, you see so many people, and I'm just judging this off of like apparel, like Kentucky or Ohio or Michigan apparel. Like, it's the Midwest destination for so many people, young families. So shout out to the indoor and the outdoor experience at the Children's Museum.
I was going to say, you talk about the weather getting better. That court over there at the Children's Museum with all the legends, I could go a lot of time there.
And it was still packed
Makes us
Saturday.
all want to be 10 again.
Even in iffy weather.
Yeah. Makes me want to be 10 years old again, all the stuff over there. It's good. James, what do you got?
So my good GOAT of the week would probably be Jason Tatum. He looked so great in his first playoff game since the Achilles injury, and considering he got hurt in the playoffs last year, boy, just outstanding stuff. 25 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, only 1 turnover in 32 minutes. He looked like one of the best players in the world coming off the Achilles, and I guess tangentially, it piqued my interest because of Tyrese Halliburton. I saw that, and I was thinking, boy, the other number 0, let's hope that you're on the same sort of trajectory where you're able to get back to being who you are, because I think, again, sometimes you kind of have an injury like that, you get out of the public eye a little bit, but we all know who Tyrese Halliburton is when he is at the peak of his powers, and I think Jason Tatum was kind of inspiring in that way.
I'm going to give it up to WNBA players, and specifically Indiana Fever players, who finally, James, are getting paid after they just got their brand new collective bargaining agreement. We saw last week Kelsey Mitchell making the Supermax at $1.4 million as the Fever's cord player. Now, most of these players, they weren't making, even the highest paid players weren't even making $250, were they, before this?
No, I looked it up, and so Kelsey had made, I believe, $1.1 million through her first 8 years in the WNBA, And she's getting 1.4 overall in her 9th.
Good for them. So, and then we saw Leah Boston just sign an epic contract. She'll get $1 million this year. Lexi Hull is going to make $760,000 on a 2-year deal out of restricted free agency. Monique Billings is going to make $800,000 on a 2-year deal. Sophie Cunningham's getting $665,000 on this 1-year deal. Caitlin Clark went from a little over $84,000 to $530,000 plus. And I'm saying keep these things public because that's how you end up getting more money in the future because you compare players to players. But congratulations and good for them finally, James. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I think one of the funniest conversations that we have about the WNBA is the people who complain about how much they get paid as if they're paying them the money. Like, if I ever come to the show and I say, hey, this person shouldn't get paid that much, and I am not personally paying them, please feel free to call me out and tell me I'm a loser. Because that's what those people are to me. Like, I couldn't care less. I hope all of you get raises.
Everybody
all
gets
of you
a
get
bag.
paid.
Yeah.
Yes, because it is not coming out of what I'm putting on the table for my family. Just my 2 cents.
Mark?
Night 2 of WrestleMania last night was very, very good. Started off with a battle of monsters with Obafemi beating Brock Lesnar and Lesnar seemingly retiring after the match. An insane 6-man ladder match. That was very good for the Intercontinental Championship. Rhea Ripley besting Jade Cargill last night in a great women's match. And then it was an all-time classic main event with Roman Reigns outlasting CM Punk. Sunday night of WrestleMania was outstanding.
All right. And in the grand scheme of things, how would you rate it?
Night 1 was a very mixed bag, very odd. There was a lot of short matches, which didn't make a lot of sense, and a lot of commercials, which not exactly what you want to see when you're paying $30, but Sunday night saved the whole event. That was very, very good.
So you get to pay $30 and watch commercials?
I know. 5-minute blocks of commercials at some points. Like, what are we doing here?
That's got to be
Sounds horrific.
That's the most irritating thing when you're watching anything on something that you paid for and then they throw in commercials on top of it.
I think they racked up on Saturday night. The wrestling versus the commercials was only like a 12-minute difference.
Oh.
That's insane.
And you're paying for it.
That's
not right. All right, let's go to the bad goats, Kevin.
The pinball machines. I think pinball machines stink. I think the only time you should lose your ball in a pinball game is if it literally goes through the middle. I don't understand my ability to hit the buttons at the right time, knock the ball out in the outfield, why all of a sudden the foul ball indicates I've lost the ball. It should not be able to go behind where my
the flippers.
Flippers, thank you, are. You guys all follow me on that?
Yeah. I do. I don't know.
Just in the middle, okay? I understand if I'm not quick enough and I don't have the hand-eye coordination to get that done, but when I'm knocking it out to left center, that thing shouldn't be going behind my flipper. Pissed me off Saturday night.
You didn't slam the top of it or anything, did you?
It's awful. I almost knocked Woody and Buzz Lightyear
Did
in
you
the
scare
face
the
of
kids?
the Toy Story. Well, they were very confused. And, I'm getting excited thinking we just got a big shot here. We're going to get an extra bonus ball. Next thing you know, there's the ball disappearing behind.
Dude, I'm laughing at this because part of it, Kevin, I don't think that the younger listeners, if they're not in school by now, even understand what you're talking about. Like, how many kids have played pinball? That is a rite of passage.
Well,
we need more kids playing pinball.
At Penn's, which we love going to the garage right
Yes.
here off of Mass Ave, at Penn's across the street, I mean, they got, 30, 40
Yeah.
pinball machines, and they do a great job with the various brands of them. So, yeah, it was probably Rosie's second or third experience with it. But then you play the game, and you're like, man, the most excitement was getting the quarters out of the machine. So I'm pissed at the pinballs.
James.
So my bad goat of the week is Tom Dundon. That's how you say his name. New Trailblazers owner. Purchased the team for $4.3 billion in April of this month, and he was the only owner to not send his two-way players to the playoffs. Like, the Trailblazers' two-way players weren't sent on the road to San Antonio to join the rest of the team. I get it, they can't play, but literally every team in the NBA does that. He also didn't give out free shirts, so there are going to be no free shirts for their home games, even though every team does that in the playoffs. And he also owns an NHL team. Like, why did you buy a team for billions of dollars to be cheap now? I don't understand that. I think that is bad ownership and a bad look on him for sure.
Saving money for the holiday, right? I would venture to guess Portland's gonna
I
have
couldn't believe it.
quite the haze today.
I'm like, you mean to tell me you couldn't find two more seats on that plane? Come on, man.
No shirts is blasphemous.
It's ridiculous. He's a cheapskate, but I can't call him a cheapskate really because he just bought a $1 billion team. Be rich. Enjoy your richness, please. God, I shouldn't have to beg you to spend the money.
Kevin, you're going to like this one. I'm going to go with the Live Golf Tour. Plenty of reports over the weekend that the Saudis are going to pull all their funding and make this thing go defunct. Some said as early as the middle of this season. They backtracked later on and said, no, this season is fully funded. But on one of their television broadcasts, they did an interview where the guy said, yeah, we're kind of in trouble. We don't know if we're going to make it through the rest of this year, and then we might go out. So they found out about, somebody in the upper echelons found out about that interview, made him recut the interview, took that part out, then played the interview, and then they showed up and played golf on basically a parking lot in Mexico. And the last time we saw a live golfer in action for us was when Sergio Garcia was breaking his driver into at the Masters. It has not been a good week for the Live Golf Tour.
Yeah, makes me sad.
Hope you'll be okay with that. Yes, Mark.
Oh, okay, my turn. All right. I got incidentally in the accidentally in the Iowa State rivalry.
Maybe it was
over the
incidentally
weekend.
and accidentally.
Yeah. I unexpectedly got stuck in the middle of it, and I didn't realize how volatile it could be because I seemingly, I tweeted out an innocent picture I snapped of night one of WrestleMania with the camera showing Tyrese Halliburton and George Kittle sitting next to each other. George Kittle on camera immediately chugged his beer. They showed to Tyrese. He takes Tyrese's beer and chugs it. And I sent out the picture because I thought it was funny because Tyrese had a very funny expression on his face. And the Iowa Hive was out. Hawkeyes over Cyclones, Tyrese Halliburger. This guy stinks. No man should steal another man's beer. Where's your dad? John Halliburton also in attendance at WrestleMania 2. I'm surprised he didn't step up to George Kittle.
Did you get Caitlin Clark involved?
I had to turn off the mentions. I was like, this is nonstop. This is just the Iowa Hawkeye fans were just going berserk.
It does strike me as a great rivalry.
But yeah, I was like, I did not see that coming on my Saturday night.
You're going to turn Tyrese Halliburton and Caitlin Clark against one another.
I know. It might happen. I mean, George Kittle flexing his muscles and all that stuff, but they're sitting not hand in hand, but they're sitting right next to each other on night two. So seemingly all good to go.
Well, hand in hand would be you and
that's me and Kevin later.
Yeah.
I'm already imagining it.
I know.
We're going to close the show down properly next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's Mark. It's cold today, so you might have the heater on, but later this week, you're going to fire up the air conditioner in no time. So do what I do. My Heil system, it can handle it. That's because I trust the folks that love heating and air conditioning with all my HVAC needs. Don't delay. Give them a call today. 317-353-2141 or check them out online at love-hvac.com. Whichever you choose, talk to a customer service rep, set up a house call. They'll be in my house tomorrow for my spring tune-up. You can also check out all the products and services they provide, like the Heil system they installed in my home. Plus, you can read customer reviews and a whole lot more. John and Chris Love, they're fourth-generation owners. They'll make sure you're a satisfied customer, just like the Dykton household is. Plus, they've been serving Indianapolis and Central Indiana and family-owned and operated for over 100 years. I love my Heil system. You'll love them, too. 317-353-2141 or check them out online, love-hvac.com.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, I've got a big announcement, Mark Dykton. The Fan Golf Invitationals presented by Franciscan Health has been sold out. So we said that there were one or two foursomes, I think, left at the beginning of the day this morning. People went and took advantage of that. James, all sold out.
Looking forward to seeing everybody. One of the few times we see everybody outside of the studio, so come and hang out with the crew.
Yeah, I know Tucker Barnhart and a few other guys decided to sign up on their own, which was fantastic. We're going to have Matt Taylor as a guy on the starting tee to announce everybody as they tee off, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. We've got Billy Brooks is going to be a part of that.
Yeah, can't wait. A week from Thursday again for that. Do want to make sure we mention this again. Rest in peace to the great Bob Cavoyan, Becky, his sons, Tom, Christy Lee, Chick, everybody. Just thoughts with everybody. An absolute icon in our industry, not just in the state, frankly. So Dodgers hats, Q95 bumper stickers, front and center on my brain today.
Nothing but respect from us here